Chapter 1072. It seems that the Emperor of the East Sea has some secrets? Qin Feng's eyes glinted with surprise. Junior brother, you've come back at the right time. Our sect is in trouble both internally and externally. We don't know what's going on outside, and the undercurrents are surging. The 9 great empires and some small sects are also stirring. The sect is in a terrible fix these days. Most importantly, there's a rumor that the Eastern Wilderness divine treasure is going to appear in the realm of stars. Now, many evil gods and sect masters are rushing to the realm of stars. If we're not careful, I'm afraid that the foundation of Xingqian school will be destroyed. Goddess Jialan was very worried. As the true disciples of the star sect, the two of them could be said to be bound together with the star sect for good or ill. Are the elders of the sect all good-for-nothings? We have to settle the internal problems before dealing with external problems. A catastrophe is coming. Are the higher-ups of Xingqian school all dead? Qin Feng had a dissatisfied look on his face. Junior brother, you don't know. Although the sect wants to eliminate the hidden dangers of the 9 great empires and many other sects, there's a lot of resistance. There are quite a number of people in the sect who are connected to the 9 empires. A slight move in one part will affect the entire sect. Many star kings and star masters are worried that if things are too intense, it might cause a commotion in the entire star sect. A trace of helplessness flashed across Goddess Jialan's beautiful face. Qin Feng shook his head. What a bunch of mediocre people. The 9 great empires have become rotten meat hidden in the realm of stars. If we don't remove them and expel them, they'll threaten the life and death of Xingqian school sooner or later. Qin Feng sighed. It seems that after a long period of inheritance, many people in the sect have been corrupted and fallen. Why are they still fighting for power at this time? Goddess Jialan wanted to say something but stopped. She wanted to refute, but she couldn't say anything. Although Xingqian school was huge, it had many shortcomings. There were many factions, and its power was relatively scattered. If it weren't for the great talent of this generation's star venerable, the power of the sect leader would have been concentrated. Xingqian school might become even more chaotic. However, since our lives and the lives of our clans are entrusted to the sect, we have no choice but to take action. Since those old antiques aren't willing to do it, then let me do it. Someone has to be the bad guy. Qin Feng smiled faintly. However, the coldness in his smile made people shudder. Junior brother, what are you doing? Jialan's beautiful eyes were solemn. Senior sister, you don't have to worry about this. First, give me a copy of the information regarding the 9 great empires from the Wind Message Hall. Then, return to the sect and ask the Star Venerable to send people to clean up the mess of the 9 great empires. As for those old antiques who oppose, you can ask the sect master to send them over. If he doesn't want to do it, then let me handle it. Junior brother, I'm afraid you'll offend a lot of people by doing this. Celestial Maiden Jialan was shocked and worried. Senior sister, you guys are too narrow-minded. All you see is internal friction and scheming within the sect. You don't know that strength is the foundation of everything. At my level, you will know that no matter how many people I offend, they can only laugh when they see me. They can't cry. After speaking, Qin Feng's gaze landed on the Huai River Dragon Palace. With a thought, the endless water of the Huai River gathered and turned into a terrifying fist made of pure black water. Boom! As Celestial Maiden Jialan's expression changed, the fist landed on the Huai River. It was as if a divine mountain had smashed down. Under the Huai River, the Crystal Dragon Palace shook violently as if the earth was quaking and the mountains were shaking. Many experts of the water race watched as the huge fist landed and were crushed into minced meat by the huge force. Boom! More than half of the Crystal Dragon Palace collapsed. The earth veins couldn't withstand the huge force and terrifying huge rifts appeared. Some of the weaker dragons were sucked in by the vortexes that were born in the rifts and fell in all directions. For a moment, they were terrified. In the main hall of the Crystal Dragon Palace, the Lord of the East Sea, the dragon ancestor of the Huai River, was discussing the details of destroying Xingqian School when he felt the huge force outside and looked up. His expression changed. "Who's causing trouble?" "Huai River Dragon God, Lord of the East Sea, come out and accept your death." A faint voice sounded. At this moment, the faint voice passed through the Crystal Dragon Palace and directly into the depths of the Crystal Dragon Palace. "Who is it?" Many experts of the dragon race were furious. Boom! Another Crystal Dragon Palace was smashed by the huge undercurrent and the enchantment started to collapse. "How dare you!" The dragon ancestor of the Huai River's face was gloomy. Killing intent jumped in his eyes like thunder. A ball of black light shot up into the sky. The Lord of the East Sea muttered to himself and felt a little uneasy. He actually came directly to our door. Could it be that our movements have been detected in advance? No, it's better to leave early now. That person dared to directly invade the Huai River Dragon Palace. Obviously, he must have schemed against the dragon ancestor of the Huai River. If I stay for too long, I'm afraid I'll be in danger and might even expose my strength. His expression changed, and his figure shuttled through the Crystal Dragon Palace like a white light. He silently followed the water of the Huai River and left the Crystal Dragon Palace. Even his clothes and followers were completely lost. This person was also extremely decisive and cautious. On the shore of the Huai River, black water surged as far as the eye could see. All of a sudden, with a loud bang, a black light soared into the sky. An extremely furious dragon roar resounded. A several hundred feet long black dragon formed purely from black water bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it tried to bite Qin Feng. The huge black water dragon covered the sky and covered the sun. A 14th level supreme of the dragon race, and a black water demon dragon of our lineage? Qin Feng sneered slightly. He didn't dodge at all. Junior brother, quickly dodge. That's a 14th level supreme. The Huai River Dragon ancestor of the Huai River Dragon Palace. Heavenly Maiden Jiaolan's beautiful face turned pale. Senior sister, don't worry. Boom. The pure black dragon's dragon claw appeared above the two of them and slammed down on them. Qin Feng's expression didn't change, and he only said one word. Stop. The black dragon that was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws actually froze in an instant. This. Heavenly Maiden Jiaolan was shocked, and her beautiful face flashed with disbelief. That black water dragon was no ordinary water dragon, but a type of Hotian primordial water that had been condensed to the extreme. Xianming primordial water. This type of Hotian primordial water was extremely poisonous, and it came from the Huai River Dragon ancestor, a 14th level supreme. Even some of the elders in the sect might not be able to withstand it. What's going on? In the black water, the Huai River Dragon ancestor's expression changed drastically. He realized that he had completely lost control of the Xianming black water. The most terrifying thing was that his entire body was stiff, and even the huge water dragon couldn't move. At the same time, there was a kind of pressure that came from the depths of his bloodline and soul, causing him to instinctively tremble uncontrollably and fearfully. The dragon race's level suppression. This feeling was not unfamiliar. The Huai River Dragon ancestor often used this kind of bloodline suppression to intimidate some of the other dragon race powerhouses. It's so terrifying. The Huai River Dragon ancestor's eyes were filled with fear. A mere black water demon dragon dares to show off its Xianming black water in front of me, a water-type dragon ancestor? You don't know what's good for you. Qin Feng sneered, stretched out a hand and grabbed at the void. Deep in the water dragon, the Huai River Dragon ancestor's eyes suddenly widened, and a trace of fear flashed. The next moment, his skin cracked and blood burst out. There's more later. Chapter 1073. Bang! A thick layer of blood-red light erupted from the Huai River dragon ancestor's body. His flesh and blood disappeared silently, and even a part of his true spirit, which had fused with the level 14 water origin law, was completely wiped out. Countless drops of Xianming black water scattered. After losing control, they were quickly transformed into water-type essence qi that dissipated into the Huai River. It strengthened the river's origin law. At the same time, a part of the invisible water-type providence was absorbed by Qin Feng and integrated into the mysterious ball of light that was being nurtured in his sea of consciousness. There's still one fish that escaped the net. As a water-type ancestral dragon and a level 15 water-type heaven rank expert, Qin Feng's divine consciousness covered the entire Huai River. The Emperor of the East Sea, who wanted to use the water to escape, could not escape. Heaven rank law, endless whirlpool. A huge black whirlpool formed in the Huai River. The whirlpool swallowed the heavens and the earth, as if the entire world was swallowed by the whirlpool. Inside, a faint golden stream of light flew out, but no matter how hard it tried, it could not escape from the whirlpool. A level 15 expert, this is an existence that has mastered a level 15 heaven rank law. In the whirlpool, the Emperor of the East Sea looked as if he had seen a ghost. In the next moment, his body fell into the whirlpool uncontrollably. The Supreme Being's body was torn to shreds, and a faint golden divine soul flew out like a meteor. It exuded a faint, godlike aura of supreme majesty. His face was filled with fear and panic. In the sky, a huge hand reached out and grabbed the faint golden divine soul. As if he had fallen into an irresistible kingdom, the Emperor of the East Sea opened his mouth to cry out. "There's no need for that. You'll tell me everything I want to know, word for word, including any secrets you have." Qin Feng's cold voice sounded. The Emperor of the East Sea looked desperate, and extreme hatred flashed in his eyes. "You want to use a secret technique to destroy your true spirit? It's useless." Qin Feng seemed to have seen through the deepest thoughts of this divine soul. Heaven rank law, reincarnation of life. A mysterious law emanated from Qin Feng's palm and enveloped the East Sea Imperial Lord. A trace of extreme fear flashed across the Lord of the East Sea's eyes. In the next moment, his figure sank into the boundless inner demon illusion. His life's experiences and achievements were all displayed in front of Qin Feng. "It's actually an extraterrestrial creature." Qin Feng was slightly surprised. In the image, the monarch of the East Sea was not from the Spirit Sea continent. It was an extraterritorial continent that was completely different from the Spirit Sea continent. It was also surrounded by a boundless ocean, but this was a huge island that was densely dotted with stars. Countless islands formed a star-like kingdom. There was also a cultivation system similar to martial arts. However, becoming a god there was only a legend. Ordinary Type 5 powerhouses could be revered as ancestors and rule over an entire continent. Rank 6 unparalleled almighties were only legends. The East Sea Emperor was born on a huge main island. The main island represented a gigantic island continent in that world. In the memories of the East Sea Emperor, there weren't many main islands even in the outer realm. Most of them were occupied by overlord-level forces. The Lord of the East Sea was the legitimate son of a huge family on the main island. He was gifted from a young age and cultivated to Type 5 before the age of 40, almost dominating the entire ocean. There was almost no way for him to advance there, until he met it, the summoning power of Limestone's god space. Knowing that he could go one step further and reach the peak of the extraterritorial continent, the Lord of the East Sea was naturally excited. Without hesitation, he responded to the summoning of the god space and became the vanguard of the god space to plunder resources from other continents. After that, the Lord of the East Sea experienced his entire life. Countless continents opened their doors to Qin Feng. The various inconceivable worlds and the numerous power systems were an eye-opener for Qin Feng. Suddenly, Qin Feng seemed to hear a cold, emotionless, machine-like voice in his ears. Beep. Reincarnata 8990 has been detected to have leaked information about the God space. Executing obliteration. Qin Feng's expression changed as he looked up. The Lord of the East Sea, who was trapped in the inner demon space, suddenly opened his eyes to the extreme. He actually woke up for a moment from the reincarnation of all lives. No, with a shrill scream, the Lord of the East Sea's pale golden divine soul, which was like a Buddha's golden body, slowly disappeared into the void. That was a power that was beyond Qin Feng's understanding. In an instant, the Lord of the East Sea was destroyed. This is the power of the God space? It can destroy a powerful rank 14 cultivator in an instant, even across worlds. Qin Feng was secretly shocked. More than that, he was excited and yearning. Beep. Detecting if a wild cultivator has discovered the existence of the God space. Entering the God space. Warning, if you choose or refuse, the God space has the right to obliterate you as punishment. The cold, machine-like voice appeared in Qin Feng's mind. A huge threat came from the depths of his divine soul. Obliterate? Qin Feng was slightly stunned. Then, a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. In his opinion, the reincarnator was just a subsidiary existence under the God space's rules, just like how he established his sect. It was all to promote his own rules and gather luck for cultivation. If he joined this God space, even if he became a god in the future, he was destined to become a subsidiary of the God space. Of course, Qin Feng wouldn't become a reincarnator. He would become the vanguard and fighter of the God space. As for refusing to be obliterated, do you think I'm stupid? This is the Spirit Sea continent. A God space wants to obliterate the native son of Providence? What a joke! Qin Feng sneered. The sage emperor's status and luck surrounded him. I refuse. Obliterate him. In the void, a cold, domineering voice sounded. An unimaginably majestic will enveloped Qin Feng. Qin Feng felt chills all over his body. An invisible and unimaginable power extended from the void and locked onto Qin Feng. As if his neck was being strangled by a noose, Qin Feng felt his heart skip a beat despite his immortal will. Above his head, the power of the Sage Emperor's status appeared. The invisible power touched the Sage Emperor's status. In an instant, boom! Terrifying thunder was born in the void and shook the greater world. In countless spacetimes, some ancient existences emitting rotten auras were shocked. Who angered the heaven and earth's origin rules? This was the wrath of the heaven and earth. A terrifying power was born from the depths of the Sage Emperor's status and instantly shattered the majestic power that was heading toward Qin Feng. It followed the original path and continued to spread. It reached an unknown location and attacked. Bang! Qin Feng felt as if his soul had gone deaf. No. A loud and furious voice faintly sounded from the explosion. Qin Feng seemed to see a pair of gray eyes burning with countless gray flames looking in his direction. He's exposed. The God space that was hiding in the dark and preparing to invade and plunder the Spirit Sea continent's origin rules was injured by the heaven and earth's origin rules. He's severely injured. There's more later. Chapter 1074. Qin Feng couldn't help but laugh out loud at that moment. This limestone chief god was simply courting death. Given the might of a chief god, it was indeed effortless for him to kill an ordinary rank 15 powerhouse. However, he was different. He was a water-type dragon ancestor and a holy emperor. Even the top children of Providence were still some distance away from him. What was a child of Providence? It could almost be said that he was heaven's own son. How could killing such an existence not trigger a fierce retaliation from the laws of nature? The Spirit Sea continent's laws of nature were powerful and ferocious. It was not something that ordinary chief gods could resist at all. The Spirit Sea continent's laws of nature were different from ordinary foreign continents. Not only were they extremely complete, but they were also extremely powerful. They were not something that ordinary continents could compare to. Even the limestone chief god would have to recuperate for a long time before he could recover from that attack. If other chief gods took advantage of the situation, the limestone chief god might even be in danger of dying. Damned ant, I'll remember you. Vaguely, a huge evil intent locked onto Qin Feng from the unseen world. The smile on Qin Feng's face faded, and the corners of his mouth twitched a little. Being targeted by a chief god was not a good thing. After a long while, that terrifying evil intent slowly dissipated. However, Qin Feng knew that he had probably really offended the limestone chief god this time. He believed that when the chief god recovered his strength, he would not let him off easily. Being targeted by a chief god, no matter how bold Qin Feng was, he couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. How unlucky? Qin Feng sighed. However, if I can become a rank 16 chief god in this era, so what if I'm targeted by the limestone chief god? A divine light flashed across Qin Feng's eyes. And that chief god space is also a good way to promote laws of nature. Perhaps I can replicate it. Although the East Sea chief god's divine spirit had been destroyed and a portion of his memories had been lost, there were still many memories that were useful to Qin Feng. For example, the chief god space. The so-called sovereign space was a system created by a sovereign using his own divine kingdom as a foundation to plunder the heavens' karmic luck and resources. In fact, it was similar to the system of the remnant soul in Xingqian school. However, compared to the system, the creator space was undoubtedly high-end and classy. Furthermore, according to the memories of the East Sea Emperor, there was more than one creator space in this endless space-time dimension. This sort of chief god space seemed to be a rather popular cultivation method for most chief gods. As a 15th-order powerhouse, Qin Feng was already qualified to replicate that model and promote his own laws. Plunder the various heavens to strengthen himself. As for the so-called plot worlds in the Lord of the East Sea's memory, there were many resource worlds that could be used as a basis to send reincarnators to snatch them. The so-called storyline worlds in the hands of every main god were extremely precious. Even among the many lords, it was a rare resource. This was also one of the reasons why the Stoneclaw chief god wanted to silence him. It was because the Lord of the East Sea had exposed part of the storyline worlds under the Stoneclaw chief god's domain to Qin Feng. However, Qin Feng did not have the ability to open up the endless spacetime to send reincarnators down. That was the power of a sovereign. There's also the karmic luck conversion mystic technique. Qin Feng's eyes lit up slightly. Apart from the wonderful information about the other heavens and the continents, the most precious thing was this mystic technique. Karmic luck conversion. This was undoubtedly extremely important to Qin Feng. This would increase his chances of becoming a chief god by more than 10%. Also, according to the memories of the East Sea Emperor, it seems that many so-called reincarnators sent by the sovereigns have infiltrated the Spirit Sea continent to plunder karmic luck. Qin Feng's expression was a little gloomy. Karmic luck being absorbed by local powerhouses and karmic luck being stolen by reincarnators were two different things. If local powerhouses absorbed karmic luck to strengthen themselves, even if they became gods in the future, they would return the karmic luck. If the so-called reincarnators from the sovereign spaces took away the karmic luck and left the continent, then the continent would lose a part of its karmic luck forever. What was karmic luck? It was a crucial thing nurtured by the origin of a continent. Taking away a part of it was equivalent to losing a part of the origin forever. The rapid decline of the Spirit Sea continent after the Golden Age and the depletion of essence qi probably has a lot to do with these sovereign spaces. Qin Feng's expression changed. He vaguely felt that he had grasped something crucial. Rumble. Several claps of thunder sounded above his head. Qin Feng raised his head and said with a moved expression, "Are the laws of heaven and earth responding to my guess?" Qin Feng's expression was extremely gloomy. As living beings born in the Spirit Sea continent, the prosperity of the Spirit Sea continent was obviously closely related to cultivators like them. If the Spirit Sea continent's cultivation civilization was strong and lasted for a long time, there was no doubt that these powerhouses would continue to pass on their legacies, and it would be much easier to spread the laws. However, if their karmic luck was taken away by the sovereigns from other realms, their legacies would be cut off, and their path to becoming a sovereign would be cut off. Perhaps the guardian gods born in the Golden Age were born from these sovereigns' reincarnators. If that's the case, Qin Feng's eyes were filled with guesses, and his gaze was cold. In any case, I must kill these so-called reincarnators whenever I see them. Whoever dares to block my path to becoming a sovereign will die. Qin Feng made up his mind. Just as Qin Feng killed the Supreme Lord of the East Sea. This time, all the reincarnators from the limestone sovereign spaces who had infiltrated the Spirit Sea continent received a notification. Main mission change. Main mission 1. Destroy any first-rate force in the Spirit Sea continent, including the 72 mysterious sects, hidden sects, many primordial clans, and sea clan forces in the 5 seas. Main mission 2. Obtain any deity position, including at least a third-class deity position. Main mission 3. Kill the Son of Providence from Xingqian School in the Realm of Stars, the primordial true king. Note: completing any main mission will count as completing the mission. Completing any main mission will allow you to summon a sovereign and return immediately. Note: failure of the main mission. Obliteration. Scenario introduction. A god-level scenario. This is a continent where martial arts flourished. Many legends were left behind from the primordial and ancient eras. The laws of heaven and earth are extremely strict. The 72 mysterious sects and the dragon clan of the 5 seas are the rulers of this continent in this era. Demon god-level existences are not a legend here. The sovereign's light cannot shine on any corner of this place. Ancient and primordial experts are awakening one after another to fight for the final great opportunity. Side mission: kill the continent's experts. Killing a Stage 8 expert will reward 100 merit. Killing a Stage 9 expert will reward 20 merit. Killing a Stage 10 expert will reward 40 merit. Killing a Stage 11 expert will reward 80 merit. The reward for killing a level 12 powerhouse is 160 merit point. The reward for killing a level 13 powerhouse is 320 merit point. The reward for killing a 14th level powerhouse is 640 merit point. Based on the levels and so on. Note: killing a Son of Providence of the same level will double the rewards. Current mission scenario: prehistoric type. Mission difficulty: SS. Who is this primordial true king? He actually made the sovereign space change the main mission at the last minute? This is extremely rare. In many provinces, some of the reincarnators who had infiltrated, whether they were in seclusion or doing something else, were all shocked. They were secretly shocked. Many of these reincarnators held high positions in some provinces and sects. Chapter 1075. However, the rewards are quite generous. Killing a divine demon main storyline quest would be worth at least 5,000 merit point. 5,000 merit points to exchange for a third-class deity position, just barely enough. Many reincarnators were tempted. They all looked at the Realm of Stars. It was also rumored that the East Wilderness divine treasure appeared there. He killed the level 14 dragon ancestor of the Huai River? Even now, celestial maiden Jialan still couldn't believe her eyes. She looked at the black-clothed young man beside her, her eyes filled with splendor. Qin Feng shook his head and came back to his senses. He waved his sleeves, and the 5 elements annihilation true thunder technique burst out. Billowing water elemental energy directly annihilated countless water thunders in the depths of the Dragon Palace of the Huai River. Rumble! The water thunders exploded, and the river water soared into the sky. The Dragon Palace of the Huai River was dead silent. Go and inform the sect master and star venerable. A faint voice came from the air. Goddess Jialan turned around, and Qin Feng had disappeared above the Huai River. East Sea Empire. Yunjing, the capital of the East Sea Empire, was built on the bank of a big lake. Vast clouds and water separated the realm of stars and Langia's spiritual region. It became the intersection of the two places. Many huge water systems originated from this boundless lake. Above the sea of clouds, a man in black looked at the bustling Yunjing under his feet. Billions of living beings were reflected in Qin Feng's divine soul. Countless living beings with the 5 senses and 6 desires were reflected in Qin Feng's divine soul. Qin Feng even had a feeling that with a little guidance, he would be able to establish a vast devil domain and become the source of countless devils. Cultivating the inner demon. In fact, there were many ways. One of them was to build the inner demon realm. If one day the inner demon realm could cover the souls and dreams of all the living beings in the realm, and it could transform illusion into reality and reality freely. It could also prove the supreme inner demon. Qin Feng walked the ancient path of soul purification, dividing the soul, turning it into the inner demon, and falling into the other side of the world. Endless thoughts of the inner demon were cut off and merged with all living beings. Finally, with the help of the supreme inner demon, he could prove the ultimate meaning of the supreme inner demon. Qin Feng had walked this path in his previous life. In this life, he fell into the stately painting and profited from the misfortune. He experienced the boundless universe, the life and death of billions of living beings, and resonated with billions of living beings. He completed the final transformation in advance. However, if he wanted to take another step forward, he would have to promote the mental demon law. It was imperative to establish the mind-devil domain and nurture the otherworldly demons. If he could imitate the tribulations of the laws of heaven and earth, he could set up the tribulations of the heart demon when he advanced. That would be the time when Qin Feng became the primordial heavenly demon lord. The primordial heavenly demon king was in existence on the same level as the chief gods of the demonic Tao. This is really strange. Why are there so few experts in the imperial family of the East Sea Empire? Qin Feng looked down in amazement. Unexpectedly, the number of experts in the East Sea Empire was pitifully low. There were only a few 5th-stage martial Tao mighty figures. The royal family was the strongest. There was only one rank 6 Great Master. After pondering for a while, Qin Feng activated the ability of the mental demon. The demonic aura around him changed and transformed into invisible mental demons. There was no lack of powerful heavenly demons that exceeded rank 8. The invisible demonic light quietly circled around the city. After a while, it turned into a stream of light and returned to Qin Feng's body. So a few years ago, strange things happened in the East Sea Empire. All the major families, including some experts of the royal family, seemed to have disappeared without a trace. Including the East Sea Empire's geniuses who were born with star chi. Rumor has it that it was done by the Xingqian school. Now, many experts of the East Sea Empire are in a state of panic. A lot of information entered Qin Feng's mind. It seems that it was done by the Emperor of the East Sea. In that so-called God space, regardless of whether one is a genius or an expert, one can obtain a part of the so-called merit by killing them. They can be used to exchange for various treasures, pills, techniques, and even God's positions. These people have probably been completely killed. They even framed Xingqian school and increased the dissatisfaction of many families towards Xingqian school. It's killing several birds with one stone. Qin Feng sneered. It's not just the East Sea Empire. Many geniuses and ancestors of the families under the East Sea Empire have mysteriously disappeared. I'm afraid that the dissatisfaction of all the major families toward Xingqian school has accumulated to a certain extent. Qin Feng looked coldly at the royal palace under his feet. He stretched out a hand. Boom! A huge palm covered the sky and appeared above the entire royal palace. Oh my God, what a huge palm! Did a peerless expert attack the East Sea Empire? It seems that the target of this hand is the royal palace within the royal palace. The huge hand reached out. Many members of the East Sea Empire's royal family in the royal palace were shocked and their eyes bulged. Bang! Regardless of their strength or status, their veins bulged. In the next moment, their skin cracked and blood stains appeared. In the next moment, blood light broke out of their bodies and shot into the sky with their souls like blood arrows, falling into the huge palm. High-grade blood essence and souls are the best things to nurture the blood sea and divine nation. Qin Feng looked at the rolling blood essence and souls in his hand and his eyes lit up. Then, he stuffed them into the chaotic divine world for the divine nation to digest. In the divine nation, strands of connate essence qi were growing on the crystal walls of the divine nation, transforming the newly upgraded divine nation. It nourished the continent and countless living beings. The blood essence and souls that fell into the divine nation were quickly devoured by the void and digested, turning into vigorous vitality. The souls fell into the 7 realms and were obliterated by the aura of the Linghai continent, turning into native living beings of the chaotic continent. The entire divine nation's foundation was getting stronger and stronger. Qin Feng looked at the imperial capital under his feet with reddened eyes. No wonder those true gods liked to set up traps to harvest souls. The benefits to their divine nations were beyond imagination. In the next moment, Qin Feng withdrew the horrifying greed in his eyes. Wantonly killing and harvesting souls could bring him some benefits in a short time, but in Qin Feng's opinion, the benefits were limited. It was better to establish the spirit demon realm. Next is the White Cloud Empire. There are 3 empires in this area, the White Cloud Empire and the Cloud Water Empire. A sharp chill flashed in Qin Feng's eyes. He flashed and left Yunjing quickly. Shuttling rapidly through the void, Qin Feng was thinking about another problem at the same time. After the great world became a divine nation, it was faced with a choice. If the divine nation wanted to speed up its advancement, there were only 2 ways. Raise the divine nation and turn it into a star. Absorb the power of thousands of stars, nurture the divine nation, and become one of the billions of galaxies. The second way was to descend to the earth and turn it into a continent, absorb the power of the earth, and become one of the many continents in the extraterritorial region. More on that later. Chapter 1076. Of course, there was a third path, a special god kingdom. It was like the mental kingdom of a supreme inner demon, similar to the final dream. The 3 paths had their benefits. Transforming a god kingdom into a star could absorb the power of 10,000 stars to rapidly improve the origin and speed up the evolution of the god kingdom. Transforming a god kingdom into a land would land on the ground and become a god kingdom on the ground. It could also absorb the power of the earth and speed up the evolution. A special god kingdom also had its own special uses. However, there were also disadvantages. Divine kingdoms were extremely important to the gods, although not all of them would be destroyed. Although not all would be lost, with the help of a god kingdom's cultivation speed would increase by several times, or even more than 10 times. It was even the headquarters of many gods. Once it was found, it would be easy to be attacked. Transforming a god kingdom into a star had such an advantage. A god kingdom was hidden among the endless stars in the billions of galaxies and was almost impossible to find. It was extremely secretive. This met the requirements of a large number of gods. However, there were also many disadvantages. A god kingdom floated in the billions of galaxies, and the formation of the laws of heaven and earth in the god kingdom was much more difficult. The second path was transforming a god kingdom into a land. A god kingdom would fall and merge with a boundless continent, becoming one of the extraterritorial continents. The advantage of this was also very obvious. It could be influenced by the laws of heaven and earth. With the laws of heaven and earth, the laws of heaven and earth in a god kingdom could easily evolve into the laws of heaven and earth. However, the disadvantage was also very obvious. It could easily become a target for enemy experts. A god kingdom was extremely fragile in the initial stage. If it was targeted by a lord god, it could easily become a so-called plot world and become a target for plunder. Only some extremely powerful existences who were not afraid of any experts' attacks would take this path. As for special god kingdoms, only some special existences could establish such god kingdoms. It was extremely rare. Basically, most supreme existences would take the first path. Only extremely powerful experts like Primordial by Emperor would take the second path. The third path required harsh conditions, and it had nothing to do with strength. Establishing a god kingdom in the hearts of all living beings, I must do it. As a supreme inner demon, the ancestor of inner demons in the Spirit Sea continent, Qin Feng obviously wanted to establish a special god kingdom. However, he was not like in his previous life where he only walked the path of inner demons. Instead, there were two parallel paths. Therefore, there were at least two divine kingdoms. Qin Feng felt somewhat hesitant about the path of the primal chaos divine world. As a star venerate, he controlled the power of the stars. Raising his deity's nation high up and turning it into a star would undoubtedly have an advantage. However, Qin Feng clearly couldn't give up on the benefits of transforming his deity's nation into a foreign land. With so many thoughts in his head, Qin Feng found it hard to make a decision. While he was deep in thought, he had unknowingly arrived in the sky above the White Cloud Empire's capital. This place was called White Cloud City. It also had another name, the City in the Sky. The giant city seemed to be built on top of a sea of clouds. It was a huge mountain. This was a city carved out of giant mountains. Compared to the East Sea Empire that had been secretly crippled by the East Sea Emperor, the White Cloud Empire was undoubtedly much stronger. Standing above the sea of clouds, Qin Feng's pitch-black pupils were somewhat surprised. The number of powerhouses in White Cloud City was beyond his imagination. The auras of the experts were like torches in Qin Feng's divine sense. There were more than a dozen 8th-level saints. There were even more 8th stage and above. There were even 2 13th-level heavenly children. The 2 heavenly children were faintly resonating with the billions of stars in the sky. They were like the sun at noon. Qin Feng's eyes flickered. From the information he obtained from the East Sea Emperor, the White Cloud Empire had produced 2 very impressive second-generation Star Lords. These 2 Star Lords were also outstanding among the geniuses who had reincarnated from the constellations. According to the information, one of the 2 stars belonged to the Fire Star of the South, while the other belonged to the Wood Star of the East. The Fire Mansion Star and the Wood Mansion Star. They were considered relatively powerful second-generation Star Lords. They weren't inferior to the Western Star Lord Tai-Bai Star that Qin Feng had killed. The East Sea Emperor had been plotting against these 2 second-generation Star Lords recently. If they had been a few days later, they might have been killed by the East Sea Emperor. The White Cloud Empire has also been making a lot of moves recently. According to the East Sea Emperor's memories, these people have already reached a consensus with the Heaven and Earth sect, the Biling sect, and the Crimson Firmament Sword sect. If the Heaven and Earth sect and the other sects join the alliance, the White Cloud Empire will be allowed to annex all the kingdoms under the White Cloud Empire. They will occupy the territories of hundreds of kingdoms under the White Cloud Empire and be promoted to an empire. Qin Feng sneered. Empires were different from empires. After receiving the response of the dragon vein, even the weakest empire would be comparable to an ordinary second-rate force in terms of status. If they had a foundation, they might be able to become a first-rate force in one fell swoop. A first-rate force with an empire as its foundation had much greater potential than an ordinary first-rate ancient clan. If they could annex the entire province, they might be able to become a saint emperor. This place is at the pinnacle of the secular world. It's abnormally prosperous, and its desires are even better than the East Sea Empire. Qin Feng stared at the white cloud city. The perception of the inner demon and the collision of rich wisdom of the common people. Countless sparks of wisdom almost formed an extremely rich, illusory world. That was the essence of countless thoughts colliding. Ordinary people couldn't see it at all. Even a level 14 Supreme Being couldn't see such a fundamental change. Only a level 15 Supreme Being like Qin Feng could faintly sense it. Fortunately, Qin Feng was a Supreme Being inner demon. He was very sensitive to such dreamlike, illusory worlds. It's almost a natural inner demon realm. As long as it's slightly modified, these illusory worlds can be merged and refined. Perhaps a Supreme Being inner demon realm can truly be born. Those rich illusory worlds were hidden deep in the endless dimensions that ordinary people couldn't see. They were rapidly evolving, and one could see many scenes from myths and legends. One could also see many stories and plots that could only be found in novels. Qin Feng had some understanding. These illusory worlds are born from the many myths and legends of the Empire. They absorb the wisdom, beliefs, thoughts, and even the scattered soul power of all living beings to truly take shape. These worlds are born and destroyed at every moment. Only those mythical worlds that have been passed down since ancient times can continue to exist and grow stronger by constantly receiving the support of the thoughts of all living beings. Qin Feng's eyes became brighter and brighter. He was a little restless, as if he had discovered a new continent. These illusory dimensions weren't useful to ordinary people, but to inner demons, the many thoughts and illusory rules within them were top-notch supplements. However, Qin Feng was soon stunned. Invisible to the naked eye, a rich illusory starlight in the void seemed to have shrouded these illusory worlds. These illusory worlds seemed to have been absorbed by the hazy illusory starlight that couldn't be seen with the naked eye. It couldn't be said to be absorbed. It seemed to have actively attached itself to it and become a part of the illusory starlight. The illusory starlight penetrated these illusory worlds and penetrated the depths of the souls of many living beings in the White Cloud Empire through an invisible connection, subtly influencing something. Star rules, no, this is Xingqian School's nets above and snares below rules. Qin Feng's eyes were secretly surprised. His eyes were filled with fear. The nets above and snares below rules had been formed for a long time and had a huge influence. If possible, Qin Feng wouldn't compete with these rules that had already formed for any benefit. Moreover, according to Qin Feng's knowledge, the nets above and snares below were a branch of another huge rule. Chapter 1077. Forget it. After all, this is a place covered by the Skynet. Snatching food from the tiger's mouth will attract too much attention. It's not good for the initial development of the mind-devil domain. Same old rules. Kill them all. Qin Feng thought. Level 15 light blue divine light burst out from his body. Heaven rank law, endless whirlpool. Rumble. The sky was lifeless. The white clouds quickly turned gray. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Celestial phenomenon? What happened? Feeling the huge fluctuation of yuan qi, many experts in the city of white clouds looked up at the sky in horror. In the sky, a huge black whirlpool appeared. Not good. A supreme above level 15 is attacking the city of white clouds. How? How is this possible? How can someone dare to attack the city of white clouds? Quick, activate the city protection array. Everyone get ready. It might be the bastards from Xingqian school. Visible to the naked eye, endless earth yuan qi was being extracted from the earth veins. In Qin Feng's eyes, hundreds of earth lung fire apertures were opened. Rich fire attribute energy mixed with the aura of the earth flowed into the city of white clouds. Rich white clouds spread out from the huge city on the mountain peak. So the city of white clouds was built on top of a fire attribute and earth attribute blessed land. By absorbing the two attributes, the defense of this huge city is not inferior to that of a peak level 14 supreme. However, this level of power is useless against me. The black whirlpool covered the entire city. There was a loud rumble. It was as if the mountains were collapsing. Under the desperate and horrified gazes of countless creatures in the city, the huge city protection array shattered into pieces. The mountain collapsed, and the mountain peak turned into countless fragments in the whirlpool. The huge whirlpool swallowed millions of creatures in the city, turning them into blood mist. The two strongest Star Lords struggled for a while longer than the average experts in the city. Two rich starlight shone from the sky and forcibly propped up a shield to resist the endless whirlpool. Damn bastard, you dare to kill millions of creatures. You will be punished by the heavens. We curse you. We curse you to die without a burial place. The two Star Lords cursed in desperation. What an ignorant fellow. Slaughtering 1,000,000 lives and incurring the wrath of the heavens? That's just a small matter. When those ancient powerhouses awaken, in order to recover their cultivation, they would massacre cities and absorb their blood essence and souls. Slaughtering 1,000,000 lives is just a small matter. Qin Feng sneered and clenched his fist. Boom! The two Star Lords were blown apart by the vortex. It engulfed the blood essence and souls of millions of people, as well as their curses and resentment before they died. The huge black light returned and blasted into the primal chaos divine world. In the world of chaos, rumble, there were many realms in the 7 elemental realms, and all of them instinctively rushed towards the millions of souls that were pouring in. In an instant, the 7 elemental realms divided up the millions of souls among themselves. After devouring so many souls in an instant, the primal chaos heavenly Tao's wheel experienced a momentary fluctuation and stagnation. Millions of souls were a huge supplement for the chaotic world that had just become a kingdom of God. The primal chaos world exuded a jade-like luster, as if it had obtained great benefits. In the depths of the primal chaos, more than a dozen types of connate essence qi were exuding. The remaining blood essence and the resentment and curses of the people in the city before they died all entered the dark elemental realm and fell into the abyss, becoming nourishment for the ancient tree in the center of the abyss. Solid black smoke bloomed on the ancient tree, and countless flowers of sin bloomed and bore fruit. The rich resentment and curses became nourishment for countless demons. The blood sea in the depths of the dark elemental realm was even larger. Although the types of connate essence qi didn't increase, the foundation is much sturdier. Qin Feng was slightly satisfied. Especially in the 7 elemental realms, some soldiers were about to be born. They would be innate soldiers that would rob the outer realms and guard their kingdoms of God. 2 beams of starlight flickered. They were the natal starlight of the 2 Star Lords, representing the Fire Mansion star and the Wood Mansion star respectively. Qin Feng's thoughts turned, and the primeval star brand in the depths of his body transformed into a star that rapidly devoured the 2 starlights. After devouring the 2 star origins, the primeval star glowed faintly. Clearly there were some benefits. Next is the Cloud Water Empire. This empire isn't as unscrupulous as the White Cloud Empire, but many of them are still in cahoots with the various sections I need to make a show of force. Qin Feng was about to leave when he suddenly stopped. In his eyes, the mountain where the White Cloud City was located collapsed. Thick lava gushed out from the ruins of the White Cloud City, spewing out at an extremely high temperature. The surrounding white clouds were dyed red. The area within 1,000 miles of this top-grade blessed land had become a land of death. Qin Feng frowned. He wasn't afraid of the resentment and curses that were born from the slaughter of living beings, but the destruction of the earth veins and the karma from the heaven and earth were not to be underestimated. With a thought, a stream of Kane true water gushed out. This stream of Kane true water seemed to be able to merge with the Tai Yin star among the billions of stars. It was as light as water, fusing into the mountain range and neutralizing the terrifying and destructive chi of the earth fire. Under the power of the Kane true water, the erupting volcano gradually stopped erupting. The fiery red lava condensed and turned into fertile nutrient. At the bottom layer, many beautiful jades were formed. Some precious mineral veins were even formed, stabilizing the earth veins. The water vapor on the top layer gave birth to life, nourishing all living beings. It cleared the earth veins and nurtured life. The water veins flowed for thousands of miles. The ancient trees that had turned into ashes in the lava were reborn in the water veins, turning back into seeds. They took root and germinated, entering the earth veins and rapidly growing into ancient trees. In the blink of an eye, the purgatory-like white cloud mountain suddenly became like a paradise. Flowers bloomed and the spiritual energy was even stronger than before. Many dead beasts and ferocious beasts were also reborn under the power of the Tai Yin water. Qin Feng glanced around and felt the oppressive and gloomy feeling in his heart. He even felt that the feeling that blocked his divine consciousness was gone. He nodded slightly and turned into a stream of light, disappearing from the white cloud mountain. After an hour, a few streams of light flew over from the horizon. Their auras were extremely powerful and they faintly resonated with the billions of stars in the sky. We're too late. The White Cloud City has been destroyed. He has already made his move. How dare he ignore the big picture of the sect? Qin Feng, that bastard, actually destroyed the White Cloud City. Such a demon is even more ferocious than the demon god. We can't let such a sinful disciple live. This bastard wants to push all the countries in the realm of stars to the opposite side of the Xingqian school. Chase after him. Once we meet him, let's kill that bastard on the spot. The owners of the terrifying auras were strangely furious. They turned into streams of light and flew towards the direction of the Cloud Water Empire. Their killing intent was monstrous and they tore through the clouds. Chapter 1078. One day later, the experts of Xingqian School arrived at the capital of the Cloud Water Empire. It was a scene of devastation. It was as if a gigantic handprint could be seen above the entire imperial capital. Rumble! The underground river gushed out from the cracks in the city all the time, drowning more than half of the imperial capital like a flood. All life was gone. Only the roar of the flood could be heard. The Cloud Water Empire was finished. The elders of Xingqian School were trembling with anger. They had a deep relationship with the 9 great empires. The 9 great empires would give them a certain amount of tribute every year. If the 9 great empires were finished, their losses would be too great. We must not let that bastard go this time. Other than the East Sea, White Cloud, and Cloudwater Empire, there are 6 other empires in the north. The Wuxian Empire, Dark North Empire, Wuxi Empire, Bahuang Empire, Ziying Empire, Monolith Empire, and Xingqian Empire. He must be targeting one of the 6 empires. We can exclude Monolith Empire and Xingqian Empire. These 2 empires have always been under the control of Xingqian School. Although Qin Feng is arrogant and crazy, I don't think he would dare to attack these 2 empires. The closest one to here is the Dark North Empire, which is near the Wild New District. Chase. The Dark North Empire worships the Kuan Prung demon god. It is said that many of the Dark North Empire's royal family have the ancient bloodline of the Kuan Prung. This empire is the last one to appear among the 9 great empires. According to the information given by the East Sea Emperor, This empire seems to be in frequent contact with many demon god temples in the Wild Spirit region. Although there is no direct evidence, the Dark North Empire should have found its next home after Xingqian School. Qin Feng's expression was cold. Looking ahead, there was a vast expanse of mist in front of him. A corner of a huge inland lake could be seen in the mist. On the lake there were countless boats. It was abnormally prosperous. Kunpeng Island, the capital of the Dark North Empire, was located on this huge inland island. Boom! Qin Feng's figure soared into the sky. A long stream of white qi streaked past his body, causing a sonic boom. Unexpectedly, the people of the Dark North Kingdom seemed to have been prepared. At this moment, many experts lined up in the sky as if they were waiting for Qin Feng's arrival. The person in front is the primordial true king. In the distance, an emperor wearing a black dragon robe appeared from the void. Dark North Emperor? Hovering in the air, Qin Feng glanced around. Behind this emperor, there were many experts standing in the distance. Their gazes were sharp, and their killing intent was awe-inspiring. Evidently, the Dark North Kingdom had received some news about the destruction of the previous 3 empires. Qin Feng glanced at the crowd and shook his head slightly. These people were too weak. The strongest among them, Emperor Dark North, was only at the 13th level of the Holy Heavenly Sun realm. The rest were mostly below the 10th level. True monarch, will you listen to me? Emperor Dark North had a calm and confident smile on his face. The Dark North Kingdom colluded with the demon god temples in the Wildlands to betray Xingqian School. What else do you have to say? Qin Feng sneered. Where did this Emperor Dark North get his confidence from? Primordial True King, you can't put it that way. A wise bird chooses a tree to nest in, and a virtuous subject chooses a master to serve. Xingqian School has been suppressing the 9 empires, and they are no longer a wise master. Moreover, Xingqian School is about to face a calamity. As the saying goes, when disaster strikes, everyone flies away. With that, Emperor Dark North looked at Qin Feng seriously. Primordial True King, you are also a talent of your time. With your talent, you should have a high chance of attaining the Tao Divinity realm in this era. I don't think you are willing to die with Xingqian School. I am not talented, but I still have some face among the demon gods in the Wildland. If young Master Qin is willing to turn over a new leaf and join the Wildlands, I am willing to be your guide. Emperor Dark North's face was full of sincerity. Qin Feng's expression was indifferent as he raised his head. Are you done talking? Emperor Dark North's face was a little gloomy. Young Master Qin, are you really not going to consider it? I can tell you seriously that Xingqian School will not be able to escape this calamity. It will definitely be destroyed. Young Master Qin, don't make a mistake. Qin Feng raised his eyes and smiled coldly. He was determined to obtain the fate of the Realm of Stars. This Emperor Dark North had a glib tongue. It was useless even if he talked his way through. Xingqian School definitely could not be destroyed. At least not before he became a god. Qin Feng, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Emperor Dark North's face darkened. Let me tell you the truth. Even many of your Xingqian School's elders are prepared to turn over a new leaf. Don't be so shameless. You are powerful, so you can naturally escape. However, according to what I know, most of your family's strength is in the realm of stars. You also have many properties, relatives, and friends. Emperor Dark North no longer lowered his stance. Instead, he referred to himself as Emperor Dark North, and his words were laced with a hint of threat. It seems like you still haven't seen the truth. Qin Feng shook his head. With a thought, the power of a rank 15 water-type god erupted without any restraint. The dense rank 15 aura erupted like a tidal wave. Bang 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 bang. Apart from the Dark North Emperor, who was the strongest among them, most of the experts from the Dark North Kingdom were sent flying with blood gushing out of their mouths. Damn it, not a rank 14, but a rank 15 god expert. Emperor Dark North's face darkened. This was far beyond the Dark North Kingdom's expectations. However, he seemed to have regained his confidence. A strange energy circulated around him, resisting Qin Feng's aura. He stared coldly at Qin Feng. Qin Feng, so you are a rank 15 god expert. However, even so, you should not have come to our Dark North Kingdom to behave so atrociously. It's too late for regrets now. Kunpeng Island will be your burial ground today. What arrogance! Qin Feng sneered. At this moment, his expression changed. His figure flashed and disappeared from where he was. Without a sound, a huge mouth appeared, as if swallowing the void. It swept past the spot where Qin Feng was standing. Qin Feng's pupils shrank. That fierce swallowing and slicing technique had exceeded the limits of a rank 14 space sovereign. What is this? Suddenly, Qin Feng felt a chill run down his spine. His spirit sensed that a formless energy had emerged from the depths of the void. It was as if a light that could swallow the heavens and earth had enveloped him. Space, elemental heaven rank law? Sensing the attribute of this energy, Qin Feng took a deep breath. His rank 15 aura fluctuated violently. The light blue divine light turned dark blue. Heaven rank law, elemental strike. A divine light that could shatter the heavens and earth struck the formless light that was sneaking up on him. Rumble! The destructive energy shattered the void. A white-robed figure could be seen being hit. However, the strange thing was that the power of the elemental strike was like a bottomless pit. His strange eyes stared at Qin Feng as if he was staring at the most delicious prey. There's more to come. Chapter 1079. The white-robed youth looked to be about 15 or 16 years old. He looked ordinary, but he had an ethereal and otherworldly aura. On closer look, he was getting more and more attractive. However, he realized that he could not see his true appearance. This was a top-notch expert left behind from the ancient times. He was called the Dark North Holy Son. He was the last remaining Holy Son of the Dark North Holy Land. He had inherited the purest Kunpeng divine blood and was a level 15 king of space. The Dark North Kingdom was one of the descendants of the Holy Land. He had not been born for long. Coincidentally, he was born not far from the Dark North Kingdom. He had been cultivating in the depths of the Dark North Royal Palace. It was also because of his existence that the Dark North Emperor was so confident. Someone from the ancient Kunpeng race? Qin Feng muttered to himself as he watched the Yuan strike being devoured. As the dragon ancestor, he hated the Kunpeng race the most, followed by the Golden Rock race. After eating you, I will definitely be able to regain the strength of a middle celestial. The white-robed youth looked at Qin Feng seriously. I advise you not to resist. Otherwise, not only will you will die a painful death. The last remaining member of the Kunpeng race. Your entire race was destroyed by the ancient dragon ancestor. To think that you still have the guts to speak to me. Today, I will completely wipe out the Kunpeng race from the Spirit Sea continent. His eyes flashed fiercely. Just as well. After taking your Kunpeng heritage, my spatial laws will be able to reach the peak of level 14 in no time. The Kunpeng was a mythical beast that could control the void. You are courting death. The white-robed youth seemed to have touched his reverse scale. On the entire Kunpeng Island, many Dark North Kingdom experts felt the wind. The wind seemed to have a mind of its own. It blew across the sky, the earth, the mountains, and tens of thousands of miles away. Many Dark North Kingdom experts were shocked. They felt that they could not fly. It was as though they had lost the ability to fly. Both the wind and spatial powers were out of control. Following the source of the strange wind, 6 primitive gray wings appeared behind the white-robed youth. The wings flapped. Outside the Kunpeng Island, a layer of the earth seemed to be scraped away silently. The water level dropped by several feet. Bang 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 bang. There was a burst of popping sounds. Countless densely packed holes appeared in the void, seemingly penetrated by the terrifying wind. Pure-blooded Kuanping? Qin Feng looked at the white-robed youth. The white-robed youth was much more powerful than Yi Ding back then. He was a pure-blooded Kuanping true spirit. He had innately possessed the strength of a 15th-order fighter. Whether it was his physical body or his control over the law of space, they were both quite terrifying. Qin Feng couldn't suppress the killing intent in his heart. The pure-blooded Kuanping was one of the most powerful competitors for the space deity position. As if seeing the killing intent in Qin Feng's eyes, the 6 pairs of gray wings on the white-clothed youth's real body flapped faster. Woo-woo! The sound was like the cries of ghosts and howls of gods. As the 6 wings flapped, countless pitch-black, terrifying black winds whistled towards Qin Feng. These black winds were extremely terrifying. Wherever they passed, the void would shatter like glass. The entire sky seemed to have been blown away by the black winds. The mountains and rivers within thousands of miles were torn apart. The mountains and rivers were like fine sand in the desert. They turned into ashes inch by inch and were blown into the black winds, blurring the world. As the white-clothed youth spread his wings, it seemed as if he wanted to turn Qin Feng into ashes and blow him away completely. Innate wind. Qin Feng snorted coldly. He raised one hand. Boom boom boom. There seemed to be a sound of tides coming from afar above the void. A blue light burst out from Qin Feng's finger. It seemed as if the void had been shattered. Boom boom boom. The law of heaven and the first primordial strike was blasted out. The black winds that filled the sky instantly cracked. A huge crack appeared and extended to the white-clothed youth. It suddenly bombarded the white-clothed youth. You really don't have a good memory. Since you already know that I'm from the Kuanping race, you still dare to use the water power to fight against me. Aren't you giving me a gift? The invisible black hole swallowed all the worlds. In an instant it swallowed all the power of the first primordial strike. Burp. He burped as if he had eaten his fill. A shocking demonic aura was circulating in his body. Every time it circulated, the heaven and earth Yuan Qi would collapse with him as the center. It seemed as if the heaven Yuan Qi was being sucked away and swallowed by him. The body of a divine beast was extraordinary. If an ordinary level 15 expert was hit by the first primordial strike, his flesh and blood would have been blown away. However, it was as if he had eaten a delicacy. Not only was he not injured, but he was also nourished. Is that so? Qin Feng raised his head. There was a flash of surprise in his eyes. The white-clothed youth instinctively felt that something was wrong. Suddenly, he clutched his stomach and his expression changed slightly. A sharp pain came from within his body. It was as if a terrifying poison had taken effect in his body and was corroding his Kuanping divine body. How is it? Did you eat something bad? Let me tell you something. Don't eat things given to you by others. Otherwise, you will be poisoned easily. Qin Feng sneered. He put his hands behind his back. His pitch-black eyes were like that of a demon god. Occasionally, wind would flow past them. The white-clothed youth's eyes flashed with horror. At this moment, there was a terrifying greenish-yellow aura on his face. The Kuanping true body's bloodline seemed to be corroded. How is this possible? The white-clothed youth's eyes flashed with anger and confusion. It was no wonder. The ancient Kuanping could swallow the world and the sun and moon. Even if it had swallowed a demon god, it would not have indigestion. This situation was unfamiliar. Heaven-rank law, life absorption. At this moment, a pale blue divine light burst out. The majestic blue light was like a whirlwind. The white-clothed youth's expression changed drastically. He tried his best to control the void, wanting to teleport away from the whirlwind. However, his body was corroded by the strange energy. He could not use his strength and was hit instantly. Visible to the naked eye, His hair gradually turned gray. It was as if he had turned from a youth to a middle-aged man. Boom! A powerful spatial energy burst out and tore the void apart. Like an invisible stream of light, a huge shadow flashed past and disappeared into the void in the blink of an eye. He ran away? Qin Feng frowned. In a flash, he entered the crack in the void and chased after the Kunpeng. However, in a flash, Qin Feng reappeared with a gloomy face. The Kunpeng was an expert at controlling space. Unless he could reach the 15th level of the God of Space, there was no way he could catch up. Qin Feng's expression was regretful. Although the heaven underworld water could temporarily poison the Kunpeng and cause him indigestion, it would not be able to kill the Kunpeng. However, it was impossible to poison the Kunpeng to death. Once it reacted and refined the blue sky underworld water, the same method would not work in the future. Only the connate true water could cause indigestion to the Kunpeng. What a pity! If I could catch this Kunpeng, refine his energy essence, steal his Kunpeng true soul, and obtain his space inheritance, I could save a lot of cultivation time. Qin Feng's face was gloomy. He glanced at the Dark North Emperor, who was in a daze. The Dark North Emperor was still immersed in the dream of his saint escaping. Forget it. There is no main dish, but at least there is a snack. There is a consolation prize. He waved his sleeves and a huge whirlpool appeared on Kunpeng Island. It enveloped the Dark North Emperor. The millions of lives on Kunpeng Island were turned into a bloody mist in the whirlpool. There is more later. Chapter 1080. Damn it, it's the blue underworld water of the connate primordial water. In a chaotic space, a white-robed young man sat cross-legged. The 6 wings on his back flapped, creating a terrifying chaotic storm. His face was yellowish-green, and his body emitted a sour smell. His face was full of bad luck. He was the Saint Sun Bei Ming, who had escaped from Qin Feng's hands. Refining the yellowish-green primordial water in his stomach, he finally remembered what his father had said about the 9 types of connate primordial waters. Only these 9 types of connate primordial waters can't be digested by my Kunpeng true body. The Saint Sun Bei Ming's face turned ugly. The blue underworld primordial water was said to be an item from the Netherworld River. The Netherworld River was extremely mysterious, and it was said to be the ultimate reincarnation of heaven and earth. It was not on this shore, not on the other shore, not in the middle, and not in the 3 realms and 5 elements. Even if an over-god entered it, he would not be able to return. At this moment, his body was being corroded by the blue underworld primordial water. His stomach, which could devour anything, was almost melted. If it was any later, it would have invaded his internal organs. By then, he would be in big trouble. Even his Kunpeng true body, which was comparable to a rank 15 Kunpeng true body, would be completely corroded. Even his soul would disappear. However, as a supreme-level Kunpeng true spirit, the last Kunpeng born in the Antiquity Age, his bloodline was extremely powerful. Even though the primordial green netherworld primordial water was extremely powerful, it could only cause him a little trouble. However, I can feel that his bloodline is very pure. He must be a high-level existence in the dragon race. He might be a true dragon or a dragon king. The reason why the Kunpeng race has always been at odds with the dragon race is because devouring the dragon race can greatly strengthen the physique of the Kunpeng race. It can purify the bloodline and aid in cultivation. I have a feeling that if I can devour him, I will reach the middle celestial realm soon. I might even be able to peek into the greater celestial king realm. The white-robed young man's eyes were filled with a trace of greed. This time, he was careless and fell into Qin Feng's trap. Next time, he swore to devour this dragon. He formed a hand seal, and the bloodline in his body vibrated. It resonated with the laws of the heavens, and emitted a dense light. Strands of yellowish-green aura were gradually expelled from his body like impurities. Tens of millions of blood essences and souls fused into the primal chaos world of God. Since he had devoured millions of lives in the Cloudwater Empire, this time, the chaotic world of God was digested much faster. After receiving such a huge boost, the 7 realms all reached the threshold of ascending to the godly kingdom. Because it belonged to the world of the primal chaos gods, there were almost no bottlenecks in the 7 realms. There was already pure connate energy being born in the 7 realms. It wouldn't be long before all of them succeeded in their advancement. At that time, the laws of heaven and earth within the chaotic kingdom of God would be purified a step further, and it would take another huge step towards the path of the laws of heaven and earth. What a pity! That Kuan-Pung obviously has more than one type of innate wind. If I could get those innate wind, the chaotic world of God would be greatly improved. His figure shuttled back and forth rapidly. According to the memories of the East Sea Emperor, the Monolith Empire and the Star Empire could be excluded from the remaining 5 empires. Because the Ziying Empire was located in the center of the realm of stars and had a special background, all the sects had scruples about it. The Ziying Empire was established by a female successor of Xingqian school. It could be said to be a nation of women. The one who made the decision was the Ziying Empress. According to the speculations of the various sects, the female true disciple was still alive. It was highly possible that she had sealed herself and was still alive. The East Sea Emperor and the others guessed that she might have come out secretly. Excluding the Monolith Empire, the Star Empire, and the Ziying Empire, there were only 3 empires left: the Wushan Empire, the Wushan Empire, and the Ba Huang Empire. The territories of these 3 empires were very unique. The Wushan Empire's territory was located at the border of the Bailing sect. The Wushan Empire was located in the far west, close to the far north snow region. Although these 2 empires had an ambiguous relationship with the various sects, they were still wavering between the Xingqian school and the various sections. The last one was the Ba Huang Empire. The Ba Huang Empire was located under the 2 World Mountain battlefield, and it had a lot of dealings with the Qiankuan sect. They even had a secret marriage alliance. The 2 powers were very close. With just a slight choice, Qin Feng decided to destroy the Ba Huang Empire first. As for whether the Qiankuan sect would overreact or not, Qin Feng didn't care. It would be best if the Qiankuan sect sent experts over and he could kill them all. The Ba Huang Empire and the Dark North Empire were tens of thousands of miles apart. There were many large and small countries in between. There were also primordial forests and huge mountains. If it was an ordinary person, they would have to face many obstacles, let alone bandits. Even a martial artist would have to walk for a few years to pass through the many countries. However, to Qin Feng, a distance of tens of millions of miles was nothing. Half a day later, he arrived at the Ba Huang Empire's territory. Beautiful mountains and rivers connected the heavens and the earth. They seemed to reach the end of the world. This was an extremely beautiful land. Even the soil here seemed to be nurturing the creation and was full of vitality. This was a true pure land. Even the wild grass on the side of the road could be some kind of precious spiritual medicine. It's no wonder the Ba Huang Empire is unhappy with the Xingqian school. Although they are the nominal owners of this land, most of the mountains and rivers here are occupied by the Xingqian school's inner disciples or the disciples' families. The Ba Huang Empire's royal family is like a half-puppet. Qin Feng looked at the mountains and rivers. He couldn't blame the Xingqian school. The mountains and rivers here were simply too beautiful. Who would have thought that a few huge dragon veins would be born here in just a few thousand years? In this world, only names and weapons could not be faked. Spiritual mountains and rivers were a necessity for cultivators. It was no wonder the Xingqian school went back on their word. However, if not for the Xingqian school's disciples fighting the Qiankuan sect outside the 2 World Mountain, the Ba Huang Empire would not have been able to hold on. Qin Feng smiled coldly. The people of the Ba Huang Empire were blinded by greed. Did they really think that they could monopolize such a huge piece of land with their strength? The Qianquan sect was not a charity. The capital of the Ba Huang Empire was slightly more special than the other empires. The imperial capital was built in the center of 8 huge, top-grade spirit mountains. It was more like an ancient city where cultivators gathered. The prosperity of this place was not inferior to the other empires. In fact, it was even more prosperous than the other empires. At the side, there was a huge mountain range that pierced through the clouds. This place was close to the battlefield, and there were many rare resources gathered here. There were also many markets. Qin Feng's eyes locked onto the huge, ancient city in the center. Suddenly, a change occurred. A dense divine radiance emerged from the depths of the earth, and an irresistible and enormous suction force appeared. It swept up Qin Feng, who was in midair like a thunderbolt. Qin Feng's expression changed. He was caught off guard and lost his balance. He fell towards the yellow godly glow. Chapter 1081. In the Imperial City, a strong yellow light surged and swallowed up the figure that was flying in the void. Many experts looked relieved. All right, that primordial king is dead for sure. That's right. He has fallen into our ancestors' divine kingdom and can't escape. Thank you, Star Kings, for reminding us in time. Many experts of the Ba Huang Empire looked at the elders of Xingqian School with relaxed smiles. They were the elders of Xingqian School who had followed Qin Feng all the way here and tried to stop Qin Feng. After witnessing Qin Feng defeat the backer of the Dark North Kingdom, the elders of Xingqian School came to the conclusion that they might not be a match for Qin Feng. They immediately ran to the Ba Huang Empire and notified the experts of the Ba Huang Empire in advance. This is nothing. Qin Feng is vicious and evil. He disregarded the rules of the sect and deserves to die. Moreover, the Ba Huang Empire is under our Xingqian School. How can we bear to see the Ba Huang Empire suffer? A Star King said with a smile. The rest of the Star Kings nodded. Exactly. We were one family 1,000 years ago. Family doesn't need to be so polite. An emperor in a bright yellow dragon robe laughed. Star Kings, I have already set up a welcome banquet in the palace. Why don't we enter the palace and watch the battle while drinking? That's exactly what we want. We want to see how that little bastard dies. A Star King sneered. After a moment of dizziness, Qin Feng opened his eyes. He had already appeared in an unfamiliar earthen yellow land. His surroundings were suffused with an earthen yellow light. The dense yellow light was like numerous extremely terrifying divine mountains and great rivers that descended onto Qin Feng's body, causing the bones in his body to emit creaking sounds as if they were unable to endure such weight. Crack! Qin Feng seemed to hear the sound of his leg bones being crushed by a huge force. Poochie! Bloody mist seeped out from the skin on his leg, looking extremely terrifying. Qin Feng's face turned cold. His water-type divine power rippled and pushed the yellow light away. The power of level 15 burst out without any concealment. Bang bang bang! The surrounding void exploded. The khaki-colored light was forced back several hundred feet, unable to descend any further. In the Imperial Palace, people were toasting each other as they looked at the tide-like divine light that appeared on the water mirror in the center. Many experts nodded to themselves. He really is a 15th order powerhouse. This Qin Feng is truly blessed by the heavens. Among the 72 mysterious sects, there are many true disciples and proud sons of the heavens. However, I'm afraid that the number of existences who have already advanced to rank 15 can be counted with one's fingers. Many experts from the Ba Huang Empire looked regretful. It's a pity that he's going to fall under the divine might of the King of Earth. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. As they spoke, Many of them looked mockingly at the Star Kings who frequently raised their cups with the Emperor. It was all thanks to the pests from Xingqian's school. The earth is boundless and all living things are eternal. I am the king of the earth, the ruler of the earth, the god of the earth. In the depths of the yellow light, a voice that contained supreme majesty sounded. Qin Feng felt that the gravity in the yellow light around him had suddenly increased by more than 10 times. A huge force suppressed his heart, causing the divine light around him to shrink violently. Primordial true king, submit to this god and give me a strand of your divine soul. As my god follower, this god will allow you to live. The loud heavenly voice shook the void. The endless majesty surpassed the heavens and the earth. It was sacred and inviolable. This was a true 15th order god. It was sacred and majestic, and its power was far beyond that of some ordinary gods. Qin Feng's eyes, which were like that of a demon god, trembled. Could this be a true devil god? Praise the King of Earth. You are the ruler of the earth. You are the ruler of the earth. You control the 4 seasons. Praise the King of Earth. You are the mother of the earth. All living things are born from the earth. The common people bask in your glory and grow strong. Praise the King of Earth. You are the only true God in the world. You are the only ruler of the world. Many strange phenomena appeared. The heavenly voice was loud and clear, resounding through the heavens and the earth. There was an extremely sacred aura, and the dense yellow divine light soared. Qin Feng's 15th order power was suppressed to the extreme. The heavenly laws around him were suppressed, and it was particularly difficult to operate. Qin Feng's expression revealed a trace of a cold smile. So it's a god of faith. How dare you? As if they had heard the contempt in Qin Feng's voice, at this moment, it seemed that countless sacred spirits had come out from the depths of the yellow light and shouted in unison. These were sacred spirits that were born after the souls of countless believers entered the kingdom of the God of faith. The more devout they were to the God, the more powerful they were. This being that called itself the King of Earth had gathered thousands of sacred spirits in its kingdom. It was enough to show that its foundation was not shallow. The divine aura that filled the sky pressed down together with the scolding of the sacred spirit. Kneel. You want me to kneel? Go away, primordial strike. A terrifying blue light blasted out. The pale blue divine light was like a tidal wave crashing down. Suddenly, the spiritual bodies of thousands of crazy sacred spirits shattered, turning into boundless yellow light and dissipating. However, a moment later, countless yellow light fragments absorbed the surrounding yellow light and were born again from the yellow light. Each of them had a fanatical expression as they rushed toward Qin Feng in a frenzy. It can actually make the sacred spirits indestructible? Qin Feng frowned. According to what he knew, only some extremely powerful gods of faith had this ability. As long as the kingdom was not destroyed, the sacred spirits would not die. God's spirit law, myriad dust. The heavenly voice shook. At this moment, an earthy yellow divine light suddenly blasted out from the depths of the kingdom and struck Qin Feng. Qin Feng felt as if he had turned into a speck of dust. The gravity around him suddenly increased by more than 10,000 times. Bang! In this huge difference in weight, the tempered divine body suddenly exploded, and his flesh and blood turned into a bloody pulp. 8 Desolation Empire, Imperial Palace. This is the earth elemental heavenly law, myriad dust. It is said that only those who have comprehended the earth elemental heavenly law to the extreme will have the opportunity to comprehend this heavenly law. A star king stared at the water mirror and praised inwardly. When hit by the myriad dust, the gravity around the divine body will change greatly. The heavenly law of heavenly law will be disrupted, and the physical body will be easily destroyed. He had a smile on his face. The King of Earth's strength far surpasses some level 15 heavenly expert. He might even be comparable to a level 15 demon god. Hearing his words, many Eight Desolation Empire experts nodded inwardly with smiles on their faces. Look, Qin Feng's real body is reforming. He has actually cultivated the transformation of his flesh and blood to the undying blood drop realm. Someone exclaimed. Everyone looked over and saw Qin Feng's real body rapidly reforming in the bloody mist. Many experts looked gloomy. The undying blood drop realm was a very difficult ability to deal with. Many people had worried looks on their faces. God's spirit law, earth vein blast. At this moment, the heavens roared. An earthy yellow divine light seemed to resonate with the heavens and shrouded Qin Feng. Qin Feng's real body seemed to have been struck by a terrifying rhythm, and his flesh and blood suddenly exploded again. This is the earth elemental heavenly law after comprehending the earth vein profound to the Deshang level. This heavenly law is specially used to restrain existences like this who have an undying blood drop realm. A star king slapped the table and was overjoyed. He laughed loudly. Qin Feng, this brat, has met his nemesis. More later. Chapter 1082. Flesh and blood exploded. In the void, a huge eye appeared in the boundless yellow light. When the eye looked over, everyone felt as if time had frozen. Heaven rank law, eye of the earth. Qin Feng's scattered flesh and blood turned into mist and solidified in the void, and it was extremely difficult to reassemble. Outside the Lord of the Earth's God Kingdom, an endless stream of power surged in. Qin Feng seemed to see countless believers madly praying. They provided the Lord of the Earth with an endless stream of power to suppress him. This power was extremely terrifying. Even Qin Feng found it extremely difficult to operate the chaotic godly kingdom and the support of the holy emperor position. Although the God of Faith was one of the weakest true gods, it was still a rank 15 true god. A true god was a true god. Although in Qin Feng's eyes, this kind of God of faith could only be considered a false true God born from the convergence of the faith of all living beings, it still possessed a portion of a true God's abilities. If it could obtain a godly position, its strength would increase explosively. The God of faith was recognized by the Spirit Sea continent as the easiest true God to attain. In Qin Feng's memories, there were even some experts who attained the body of a God of faith in just a few days. However, the God of faith had a huge flaw. Faith was poisonous. The power gathered by all living beings was tyrannical, but the poison contained in it could corrode the godly position, Godhead, and soul. Many God of faith became extremely powerful in a short period of time, but due to the poison of all living beings, their personalities would slowly change, and even their minds would become distorted. They would become paranoid, irritable, murderous, or lose their emotions and become the puppets of all living beings. They would be aloof, cold, and emotionless. The Lord of the Earth in front of him was such a case. He looked very tyrannical, but in Qin Feng's eyes, he had obvious flaws. All living beings could become a God of faith, and they could also destroy a God of faith. Especially when it came to the use of the faith of all living beings, a supreme inner demon was far stronger than a God of faith. A layer of black light appeared around Qin Feng's bloody mist, and an unimaginably strange and majestic void brilliance appeared. The origin, strange, and supreme essence that was not inferior to any true gods. Dense supreme demonic light shone, and the surrounding glorious and sacred godly realm immediately changed in Qin Feng's eyes. He seemed to see countless lines of faith connecting to the godly realm from the depths of all living beings' souls. In the center of the godly realm, there was an extremely dense yellow divine light that used these lines of faith to establish a connection with some laws of heaven and earth. That was the laws of the earth. Qin Feng was slightly enlightened. The so-called God of faith didn't comprehend and control the power of laws on their own. Instead, they relied on the faith of all living beings to obtain the ability to borrow a portion of the laws of heaven and earth. Of course, if he God of the godly position, he would become his god of the godly position. However, the king of the earth no longer had the chance to do so. Today, I'll show you the means of a supreme inner demon. When it comes to controlling the desires of all living beings, you gods of faith are nothing compared to us supreme inner demons. You're only worthy of supporting us. God of God. The dense demonic light transformed and contaminated the remaining faith lines in the blink of an eye. Countless inner demons entered the minds of the believers through these faith lines. Stubbornness was the god of gods, and fanaticism was the god of gods. Qin Feng did not need to use any means to incite the believers, and their fanaticism turned into hatred. Along with the birth of this hatred, a part of the bright yellow sacred godly realm seemed to be rotten, revealing rotten flesh. The godly realm's power was weakening, and the heavenly laws around Qin Feng's body were weakening. The bloody mist gathered and merged into the center of the god of faith. The dense demonic nature became even more brilliant, and at this time, it revealed a strange holiness that could not be profaned. What is this thing? In the depths of the godly realm, a thunderous voice was filled with anger and the uneasiness of an unknown power. Purifying fire! In the roar, an extremely dense, sacred flame descended, and the demonic nature that contaminated a part of the godly realm seemed to be refined under the sacred flame. Godly fire! This was the divine soul fire of a true god, and it had extremely pure divinity. It could burn and purify all things, and it was comparable to some of the top innate godly fires. The god of faith was trying to purify the faith with the godly fire. Creak, creak! Countless screams sounded, and a part of the godly realm that was rotten was refined by the godly fire, and seemed to be completely eliminated. The godly fire was a huge reliance for the god of faith to purify the god. It's useless, your power comes from all things. Using the power of countless sentient beings to deal with a supreme inner demon is just asking for humiliation. Demons of all things, demonized godly realm. Qin Feng sneered, and with a thought, countless inner demons turned into believers, and deep hatred, and curses for the god of faith rushed over like a river. The entire godly realm's foundation began to rot from the source. Faith was poisonous, and the poison of all things was terrifying. Could be said to be the most poisonous thing in the world, far more poisonous than any other poison. This kind of thing could only be controlled by the inner demons that were good at bewitching all things and confusing the gods. They could even absorb it and make it their own. The terrifying poison of all things flowed into the clear water river like a stream of ink. It dyed the clear water black. Although the dense godly fire was strong and could purify all things, it was like a weak candlelight in the face of the hatred of all things. In an instant it drowned the huge godly realm. No! In the center of the godly realm, the ball of light formed by the god of faith struggled violently. The god of faith's eyes were filled with anger, but he was more at a loss. He had never encountered such a terrifying situation before. Faith was poisonous, and he knew it before he became a god of faith. Once believers were dissatisfied with the god of faith, they would turn into poison and corrode the god's foundation. Some impure power of faith was the main source of the poison of faith. However, to ordinary true gods of faith, some of the poison of faith could be purified. The god of faith had never foreseen such a terrifying situation. The poison of faith could be catalyzed and born. In the blink of an eye, the entire godly realm was corroded by the terrifying power of hatred of all things. His divine body, divine soul, and even the newly born earth godhead were corroded, and the poison went straight to his soul. Sizzle! The rich power of hatred of all things tore at his saint's soul. God of faith, I curse you. I curse you to die without a burial ground. You bewitched our souls, confused our minds, and plundered our wealth. You will die a horrible death, and we will not let you off even if we die. The rich aura of hatred was born, and the imprints of countless zealots in the past 1,000 years were turned into vengeful demons by Qin Feng. They crazily gnawed at the god of faith's divine soul. The godly realm let out an earth-shattering scream. The backlash of faith and countless demons gnawed at one's body was 1,000,000 times more painful than being cut into pieces and having one's soul extracted. Chapter 1083. It was only at this moment that Qin Feng realized something. An unparalleled heart demon like him was the nemesis of some gods of faith. Using the poison of all living beings to guide the faith was a disaster for true gods who relied on the power of living beings to maintain their existence. They were completely suppressed. "I'll take you down with me." Being bitten by billions of believers, the king of the earth was getting weaker and weaker. In his despair, his tattered body turned into a ball of extremely hot light and shot towards Qin Feng. In just a split second, the countless demons that were biting the king of the earth were turned into ashes. A power that surpassed level 15 middle celestial and was almost at the level of a greater celestial appeared above Qin Feng's head. Self-destruct. Qin Feng was shocked as he gulped down a mouthful of saliva. The self-destruction of a true god was so horrifying that it was hard to believe. His body changed as he tore through the void and entered the crack. Not good. Old Master is going to self-destruct. In the Imperial Palace, the people who were watching the battle while drinking seemed to have woken up from a dream. They were shocked out of their wits. How could they care about eating and drinking as they ran out of the palace with all their might? But it was too late. Boom! The ball of light that the king of the earth had turned into expanded to its maximum. With a loud boom, it exploded. Qin Feng only felt a ball of destructive energy gushing towards him from behind. The depths of the void started to crumble, destroying everything within a radius of several hundred miles. Qin Feng sped forward with extreme speed. That force followed him for thousands of miles before it calmed down. By the time Qin Feng tore through the void and appeared outside, he realized that the entire capital of the Ba Huang Empire was gone. It had been blown up into the sky. There was a bottomless abyss that was tens of thousands of feet deep on the ground. The Earth's crust had been pierced through as the Earth's core exploded. Thick flames spewed out from the abyss. Rumbling lava flowed out. As for the people of the Ba Huang Empire, almost all of them were killed by the explosion. This was something that Qin Feng could confirm with his consciousness. It was tragic to the extreme. At the periphery, the 8 spiritual mountains that were guarding the place broke apart as spiritual energy leaked out. The top 8 spiritual mountains were now a thing of the past. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Qin Feng's expression did not change. A moment later, several auras appeared in the void. All of them stared blankly at the ruined land. What happened here? Why is the entire Ba Huang imperial capital gone? Junior brother, what's going on? Among the experts, a blue-clothed woman with bright eyes stared blankly at Qin Feng. Also, where did the Star King elders go? She was none other than Jiaolan. After consulting the headmaster, Star Venerable, and all the peak masters, she hurriedly brought a group of 6 ancient Star Kings over, fearing that Qin Feng would do something rash. But now, it seemed like he was too late. I'm afraid that even a full-powered attack from a rank 15 true god wouldn't be as powerful as this. It's probably the self-detonation of a rank 15 true god. Even though we were tens of thousands of miles away, we could still clearly feel that expanding and terrifying power. If those Star Kings are in Ba Huang Imperial Capital, a Star King elder's expression froze. The group of people's expressions immediately became strange. How strong is this junior brother to be able to force a rank 15 true god to self-detonate? Jiaolan stared deeply at Qin Feng. Jiaolan knew that the huge crater in front of them was most likely caused by the self-detonation of a rank 15 true god. Xingqian school knew that the Ba Huang Empire and Qiankuan sect were in cahoot. It was because the Ba Huang Empire had a rank 15 true god. That true god was called the King of Earth, and he was the founding monarch of the Ba Huang Empire. If not for the existence of this true god, no matter how slow Xingqian school was, they would not have allowed the Ba Huang Empire and Qiankuan sect to flirt with each other. They were afraid of taking action for fear of breaking the vases. Now, the aura of the King of Earth had completely disappeared. The various temples and statues had collapsed, and the tremors of the laws of the earth had yet to settle down. All of these indicated that a true god of earth had fallen. Qin Feng looked at the thousands of miles around him. There were so many earth veins and spiritual mountains that had been blown into the sky. It was probably a heinous sin. Although most of the blame was on the King of Earth, Qin Feng was also one of the main followers. Although it was only a small part of the sin, if it landed on him, it would be a huge obstacle for him to become a true god in the future. With a thought, the clear connate grand moon primordial water gushed out like a flood. As the clear connate grand moon primordial water flowed past them, the Star King's eyes lit up. The clear aura could not only cleanse the physical body, but it could also purify the impurities in one's laws and increase the power of one's soul. As the soul true body absorbed part of the water, it became purer and purer. Even some top-notch soul true treasures did not have such an ability. A few Star Kings could not help but sit down cross-legged. They used the boundless connate grand moon primordial water to cleanse their physical bodies and wash away the ancient and decaying aura in their bodies. Qin Feng looked at these old guys. He didn't have any objection to these old fellows taking advantage of him without saying anything. He had plenty of connate grand moon primordial water. Like numerous heavenly rivers flowing in the sky, the grand moon in the sky seemed to have been completely drawn down. It formed a vast, snow-like moon in the sky above the destroyed eight-barren empire. Layers of connate grand moon primordial water started to seep into the earth meridians. It cleared up the earth energy, fire energy, and all kinds of dark energy that had already formed. It pushed towards the earth lungs in the center. The most important thing now was to close the earth lungs, repair the earth crust, and eliminate the fire energy. After eliminating the terrifying earth fire, this great calamity could finally be considered to have come to an end. Swoosh! Sensing the commotion in the Eight Desolation imperial capital, powerful cultivators rushed over from all directions one after another. However, when they saw the huge heavenly river that stretched across the heavens and earth and received the power of the grand moon, they were all stunned. There is so much connate grand moon primordial water. This is unbelievable. I am also a water-type cultivator, but even I can only condense 3 drops of connate grand moon primordial water in a year. However, this person can summon an entire river. This must be an unparalleled water-type cultivator. Many powerful cultivators were secretly shocked. This kind of power could only be possessed by the legendary true gods. Many powerful cultivators imitated the Star Kings and sat cross-legged in the void. They used the creation of the huge heavenly river to cleanse their sacred power. Qin Feng's telepathic thoughts were all in the surrounding 10,000 miles. Qin Feng's telepathic thoughts were focused on controlling the creation of the connate grand moon primordial water and eliminating the fire energy. He did not blame the crowd for their actions. Seeing that the unparalleled being controlling the connate grand moon primordial water did not blame them. Many cultivators' eyes lit up and they followed suit. Many cultivators also sat down and treasured this rare opportunity. Chapter 1084. Streams of water flowed through the earth veins, cleaning and repairing the broken earth veins. The earth's crust was slowly being repaired. Some precious fire jades, star sand and ore cores were deposited. There were many precious spiritual materials in the magma deep in the earth. Usually they would not be visible. But now that the earth veins were detonated, all of them were revealed. Qin Feng kept a portion of them in his chaotic world of God, while the rest were scattered in the earth veins to nourish them. As the earth's crust was repaired, the fire energy in the earth veins was suppressed. Countless fire energy was absorbed by the connate grand moon primordial water. The fire poison within a radius of 1,000 miles was finally eliminated. All that was left were the 8 broken spirit mountains and blessed lands. In Qin Feng's senses, he faintly sensed that the water energy in his body had once again recovered, and he'd comprehended some new water elemental profundities. This is also a way to promote the water-type laws. Qin Feng smiled. The rich grand moon primordial water swept through one of the mountain peaks like a long river. It slowly opened up the earth veins, refined the earth veins and connected the mountains. Boom boom boom. The huge mountain peaks started to recover under Qin Feng's divine power. The spiritual roots of the plants on the mountain that had been cut off were stimulated by the clear and pure grand moon primordial water. Qin Feng used the water-type laws at the same time, creating the water of life to nourish the weak plant. As for the spiritual beasts that were completely dead, Qin Feng could not care less about them. Although he could use his destiny to revive these spiritual beasts, it was not very useful. Instead, he would attract the hostility of the top experts who were proficient in destiny. This was the crucial moment of the birth of the God position. No one would want to have another competitor on their team. If not for the fact that the earth veins were damaged and the sins of the heavens and earth were hovering above his head, Qin Feng's water-type powers would not have been exposed. Qin Feng reckoned that after today's actions, it would not be long before the experts of the water-type would come looking for trouble. Among the experts of the same element, there would only be one king. Boom boom boom. Within the river formed by the innate grand moon primordial water, the 8 spiritual mountains were recovering rapidly. Furthermore, with the nourishment of the innate grand moon primordial water, the spiritual aura of these spiritual mountains became even more apparent. This is amazing. The connate grand moon primordial water is extremely keen and cold. Even the slightest bit of coldness is enough to cause a huge disaster. This primordial true king is actually able to reign in the coldness completely and turn the coldness into destiny, nourishing all living things. Just this move alone is enough to make him comparable to the top few water element supremes of the 72 mysterious sects. A star king opened his eyes, his gaze filled with admiration. He was like a huge ice attribute star. His true form transformed, and dense starlight appeared, as if he was the king of ice and snow. This was an ice-type 12th rank old star king. I'm afraid he's already extremely close to the water deity position. Once the water deity position descends, he'll be able to seize a deity position and become a devil god. The other star king's eyes slightly brightened. If Qin Feng was the first to become a rank 15 true god, then the next school master's position would undoubtedly fall onto Qin Feng. That's right. Junior Qin Feng might be the first person in our Xingqian school to become a true god in this generation. The heavenly lady Jialan also thought highly of Qin Feng. That might not be the case. You guys don't know that the first successive disciple, Gong Ao, is already a rank 15 true god. It's said that he's only half a step away from the deity position. Once the deity position descends, he'll be able to succeed. Another star king shook his head. Hearing this, the other star king's expressions changed slightly, and they all revealed bitter looks. It would be fine if there was only one branch that stood out. However, now that there were 2 dragons fighting, Xingqian school was destined to undergo a huge change. The spiritual mountains and spiritual mountains within a radius of a few thousand miles were being restored. Qin Feng opened his eyes, and the dense grand moon primordial water flowed into his body like a river. Senior, fellow star kings, I'll leave the Ba Huang Empire's situation to you guys. Junior, do you still want to continue? The heavenly Lady Jialan stared at Qin Feng with her bright eyes. Qin Feng thought for a while and shook his head. Forget it. Although some of the remaining 3 empires have an ambiguous attitude, it's not like I can't rope them in. What I want to do is to make an example out of them. I don't want to start a massacre and kill all of them. The heavenly Lady Jialan and the other star kings looked at each other and heaved a sigh of relief. If Qin Feng continued to kill, he might really trigger the crisis in advance. However, there weren't many people in Xingqian school who could stop this successive disciple. Unless the sect leader and the star venerable came to stop him personally. I'll leave this to you guys. Qin Feng's body transformed into a formless radiance and disappeared from where he was. The Eastern Wilderness divine treasure was about to appear. Qin Feng was prepared to use the remaining time to familiarize himself with the power of the unparalleled extraterrestrial demon king. At the same time, he could refine the spiritual kingdom of all living beings. This Qin Feng threw all the mess to us. More than half of the 9 great empires were destroyed by him. It's been hard on us. A star king smiled bitterly. The other star kings looked helpless. They looked at the white land left behind by the explosion of the 8 wilderness imperial capital. How many misty rain pavilions, how many prosperous beauties were buried in this explosion? Naturally, the bloodline of the 8 wilderness imperial family was left behind. They were probably going to face a reckoning. However, it might not be without benefits. There were so many spirit mountains, blessed lands, spirit veins, and spirit roots that belonged to them would naturally have to be reshuffled. As the star kings in charge of dealing with this incident, they naturally had to choose first. This was not a small favor. Looks like when we go back, we have to put in a good word for this true legend. Of course. We old antiques can't afford to offend him. The heavenly Lady Jialan rolled her eyes. With such benefits in our pockets, what else do you old fogies have to say? The star kings laughed when they heard this. Zhuzifu, Cloud Mist Mountain. As the Zhuzifu estate master, Qin Feng rarely stayed here since he took office. After a month, Qin Feng chose to stay here. Naturally, he also saw perfected cultivator Qing Lian, perfected cultivator Xian Yin, perfected cultivator Tai Mu, and the others. And Du Pingxia. In the main hall, Qin Feng sat on the throne with his eyes closed. He listened to the reports of the perfected cultivators and Du Pingxia. Qin Feng looked absent-minded. At this moment, the salary from the Zhuzifu estate was almost useless to him. In his eyes, only the deity position could slightly affect his mind. And the Eastern Wilderness divine treasure. Estate Master, this time, we are waiting for you to return and make the decision for the Zhuzifu estate. That Xianping Prefecture and Jinbo Prefecture have been unscrupulous all these years. Many spirit mountains and blessed lands under our Zhuzifu estate have been taken by them. Du Pingxiao's voice rang out. Qin Feng looked up. Du Pingxiao was not the only one in front of the hall. Perfected cultivator Qing Lian, Jinyang Gongsun, perfected cultivator Xian Yin, perfected cultivator Tai Mu, Zhang Han, and the other sages of Liutu Peak were also looking forward to it. These people came to the Zhuzifu estate to make contributions and fight for their own territories. Qin Feng had not been around all these years, and they could not make their own decisions. They had been stifled. Qin Feng did not mind. Since Xianping Prefecture and Jinbo Prefecture have provoked the Zhuzifu estate, we naturally have to fight back. Gather the disciples and take back the spirit mountains and blessed land. Junyang will take the lead this time. Pingxia will be in charge of Cloud Mist Mountain. She will be in charge of the Central Command. Chapter 1085. Thank you, Mansion Master. Sage Celestial Tune, Sage Tai Mu, and the rest were overjoyed. They had been waiting for this since the first day they arrived. A group of people walked out of the main hall happily, preparing to launch an all-out attack on Xianping and Jinbo mansions. Du Pingxiao was wearing a yellow palace dress. Her beautiful face was elegant and noble. She glanced at Qin Feng and saw that he was thinking about something with his eyes closed. She wanted to say something, but she couldn't bring herself to say it. Qin Feng's prestige was increasing day by day along with his strength. Even though Du Pingxiao wanted to say something, he was momentarily intimidated by the majesty and was unable to speak. The distance between us is getting further and further. The last time I met him, he was only at rank 8. This time, he is even more imposing. I'm afraid his strength has improved to an unimaginable level. Du Pingxia bit her lower lip. Her beautiful eyes flickered with hesitation. A great change is imminent in this world. Although senior brother Qin Feng is temporarily protecting our Du family, there is still a limit to the friendship between experts. It will slowly fade with time. As he grows stronger and stronger, the number of followers under his command will also increase. If there is a day when he forgets about our Du family, with our little bit of strength, I'm afraid. Du Pingxia's delicate face flashed with a complicated expression. She glanced at the young man in black on the throne and made a decision. It is urgent to build the Mind Kingdom. The cultivation of the supreme inner demon is built on the hearts of all living beings. I have to borrow the hearts and wisdom of all living beings and even the changes in the mortal world to comprehend the true essence of the primordial beginning. The cultivation of the inner demon lies in the scope of transformation. If I can infiltrate the inner demon into the hearts of all living beings, I'm afraid even the master gods will have to run away when they meet me. Qin Feng was slightly agitated. However, the inner demon wasn't omnipotent. There were many forces in this world that could restrain the inner demon. The reason why he could rely on the inner demon to win so many battles was that it was the first time for many experts to face the inner demon. After a long time, there would be techniques, treasures, and even secret treasures that could restrain the inner demon. This trend was inevitable. There was nothing in this world that was invincible. However, Qin Feng wasn't afraid. As long as his inner demon continued to change, it would also change infinitely because of the existence of these restraining methods. It would become more and more perfect and stronger. He could even demonize the world with a single thought and seize the heavenly Tao. However, the first thing to do now is to establish the Dreamscape Kingdom. The Dreamscape Kingdom is a simplified version of the Mind Kingdom. The Dreamscape Kingdom is completely illusory. When the Dreamscape Kingdom can turn illusory into reality and vice versa, it will be the time for the true Devil Kingdom to be established. As an inner demon, Qin Feng was an expert at manipulating the minds of all living beings. Creating a dreamscape wasn't difficult. On the throne, Qin Feng muttered to himself. Dreams needed a basis, just like how a god of faith needed believers. He now had two choices. One was to establish the dreamscape in the myriad star domain, and the other was to establish it in the northern spirit domain. After pondering for a moment, Qin Feng gave up on the first option. The choice of the dream realm first required a prosperous and developed land. Although the myriad star domain was huge, it couldn't be compared to the northern spirit domain in terms of population. The second reason was that the entire myriad star domain was filled with the rules of the stars and Skynet. Even if the Dreamscape Kingdom was established, it would be difficult to escape Skynet's surveillance. It would even become a vassal of Skynet. On the contrary, the rules of the northern spirit domain were much looser. Even if there were a few gods, no one dared to touch Qin Feng's majesty. This provided an extremely safe environment for the growth of the dreamscape. The most important thing was that the northern spirit domain was under the control of Qin Feng. In between thoughts, Qin Feng stretched out a finger and struck the void like a thunderbolt. Silently, the void split open as if chaos was opening. The clear and turbid yin and yang were flicked away by a finger. A haze appeared 3 feet in front of Qin Feng. It was like a small silver-white galaxy. The small world has been established. The next step is to receive the thoughts of all living beings, turn reality into nothingness, and refine a small dream world. Qin Feng said. With a thought, the Northern Spirit Holy Emperor's position was added to his divine soul, and a huge void continent appeared in front of him. This was the projection of the Northern Spirit Domain's origin that formed the shadow of the continent. There were many city-states in the Northern Spirit Domain, and the cities were all on the continent. It was like a boundless universe. Countless living beings lived in it, and their wisdom collided. Some of the living beings had faint black strands. That was a part of the living beings that were infected with the inner demon. In fact, being infected with the inner demon wouldn't immediately have any side effects, or become extreme or evil. Only when Qin Feng mobilized the inner demon would there be a drastic change. If Qin Feng didn't mobilize it, perhaps it wouldn't act up for the rest of his life. Qin Feng stretched out a hand and grabbed from afar. A trace of illusory black gas was pulled out. That was a kind of strange power that was born from the countless changes in the minds of all living beings. As the saying goes, dreams are born from the heart. Clumps of inner demon were pulled out by Qin Feng and merged into the small world that he had opened up. That small world had just been born, and it was like a baby crying for food. It was very hungry, and it seemed to have swallowed everything. After swallowing that clump of inner demon's inner demon, it suddenly inflated like a balloon and began to grow. Gradually, it sank into the depths of the dimensional void and became a small paradise. The shape of that small paradise was also changing, and it was like an illusory sun that covered the world. That illusory sun was connected to thousands of living beings. Following their dreams, illusory living beings were born. Qin Feng could see that in that originally blank dream, many strange things were born. The ground was paved with gold bricks, and the roof was made of precious jade. Everywhere was filled with light and fragrance. Buddhist buildings, palaces, and small buildings, the eaves, windows, and railings were all decorated with various precious stones. Everywhere there were heavenly fragrant dream trees arranged in rows, and the branches were hung with colorful ribbons. Those gold bricks, precious jade, and colored glaze were all formed from the dreams of living beings. As for those precious trees, they were formed from some powerful cultivators. As for the layers of treasures, they were formed from a higher level of dream power. In the blink of an eye, that small dream world had received the dream power of thousands of living beings, and it had already transformed from a newborn small paradise into a true small paradise. Moreover, there was an endless flow of inner demons, inner demon being guided by Qin Feng and injected into this small paradise. The illusory sun that the small paradise had transformed into was expanding, and it emitted an even more intense light. More and more living beings' dream threads were connected to the illusory sun. This was similar to a special dream realm divine domain, nurturing by all living beings. With a thought, a wisp of divine flame appeared in the dream realm, and it started to condense into this dream realm country inch by inch. The chaotic dream realm contained the thoughts of too many living beings. Generally speaking, living beings with dream Tao laws as their foundation would only choose one type, such as nightmare Tao laws or dream Tao laws. Qin Feng's dream realm contained everything. Most likely, only a supreme inner demon like him would be able to withstand the impact of the countless living beings' dreams. There's more later. Chapter 1086. The dense divine fire seemed to ignite the light of the illusory sun. Some of the black smoke was refined. It was something similar to the poison of all living beings. It was extremely terrifying. It was pitch black, and even the divine fire couldn't purify it. However, Qin Feng revealed a hint of joy. This kind of thing was a rare tonic for supreme inner demons. Perhaps this place can become a demon's nest, to nurture inner demons, and many outer realm demons. Qin Feng's thoughts moved, and a trace of the origin of the Chaos God's world descended. Rumble. It was visible to the naked eye that the illusory sun seemed to have deepened by a level, becoming huge and boundless. The intense light illuminated the endless void and many dark corners. It was like a huge whirlpool that could automatically devour the chaos energy in the endless void. The Dream Kingdom had advanced. It became a medium-sized kingdom. At the same time, it also established a connection with the Chaos God's world. It was as if it had become a subordinate world of the Chaos God's world. Shrines were born in the dense Dream Kingdom. The shrines filled the entire Dream Kingdom, and the dense power of the Dream Kingdom merged into them. Rumble. Streaks of formless black smoke appeared from the temples one after another. Inner demons. These were the inner demons that Qin Feng refined using the poison of all living beings in the Dream Kingdom. They were also the messengers of the Dream Kingdom. These inner demons were very special. They were born with the ability to use a part of the Dream Kingdom's power. Dreams, inducements, bewitchment, and even layers of illusion. The energy fluctuations were mostly innate stage 3 power. A wave of black gas fluctuated, and some of the black gas transformed into ferocious beasts. It was a horse-shaped ferocious beast with a single horn. Its entire body was pitch black, and its eyes were as red as blood. Its 4 hooves emitted terrifying crimson demon flames. Nightmare. It was a dream-type mutant formed by the inner demons combining the fear of all living beings. Some transformed into women that looked very slutty and flirtatious. They had wings and tails. These were dream demons that could absorb the essence of men in their dreams. There were also some male dream demons that could also absorb the essence of living beings in their dreams to cultivate. These were dream-type mutants formed by the inner demons combining the desires of all living beings. There was also a kind of extremely handsome creature with wings on its back. It had a very holy aura. Handsome men and beautiful women looked holy and flawless. This was the Angel of Dreams. It was a special existence that was born from the combination of the inner demon and the goodness and beauty of all living beings. There were also various other dream-type demons that corresponded to the various aspects of living beings. The strongest one was a 9-headed dream-devouring dragon. The 9-headed dream-devouring dragon was formed by purifying and condensing the essence of all living beings from a heart demon. It contained the 5 skandhas, 6 desires, and a myriad of worldly desires. Even Qin Feng, the creator of the dreamscape, was surprised to see the 9-headed dream-devouring dragon. Such an existence was considered a superior existence among the devils, and could even be considered a king. Many dream xenogeneics were being bred in the temple. Using his position as the Saint Emperor, Qin Feng slowly enveloped more than half of the living beings in the northern spirit region in the dream realm. The power of the Dream Kingdom was being absorbed. At this moment, most of the people in the northern spirit region suddenly fell into a deep sleep. Fortunately, it was nighttime, and most of the living beings that Qin Feng had enveloped were ordinary mortals, so they did not immediately attract the attention of other experts. However, one of the evil gods noticed Qin Feng's actions. This was a famous evil god from the ancient times, the Lord of Abominations. In the northern spirit region, under a mountain range in a dense forest, an ancient temple was covered in dust. Thick spider webs were everywhere, and there were even remnants of unknown beasts' feces in the temple. In the middle of the temple, a 3-headed, 6-armed demon god was enshrined. The stone statue had been eroded by time and had lost its true meaning, but the 3 heads were abnormally ferocious. The 3 heads of the demon god represented jealousy, hatred, and greed respectively. When the Dream Kingdom was absorbing the dreamscape energy of all living beings in the northern spirit region, a vertical pupil appeared in the middle of the stone statue that represented hatred. The vertical pupil emitted a thick, pitch-black brilliance. The ferocious, greedy gaze instantly followed the rich 5 skandhas and 6 desires of all living beings and landed on an illusory sun in the void. It was a huge dream kingdom that had gathered the dreamscape energy of most of the living beings in the northern spirit region. What a thick power of hatred! It's really a tonic given by the heavens. A thick, black light shot out from the vertical pupil in the middle of the stone statue. A huge black light locked onto the dream kingdom in the depths of the endless void and shot out explosively. In the depths of the cloud mist mountain, Qin Feng, who was sitting on the throne, opened his eyes. He seemed to feel a huge, greedy divine power staring at the dream kingdom. Qin Feng's heart felt as if black clouds were pressing down on him. It was extremely ominous. The black light swept over, and Qin Feng immediately noticed it. His gaze followed the pitch-black pupil and instantly landed on the terrifying ancient temple on the mountain range. An expert from the ancient times, and a relatively strong evil god under the rules of the evil Tao. It seems like it's an evil god that has overlapped with the Dream Kingdom's authority. It must have touched him when the Dream Kingdom was absorbing the dreamscape energy of all living beings, causing him to be greedy. Qin Feng did not show any signs of weakness as he pondered in his heart. A pale blue divine light flickered in his eyes as he raised one hand. A pale blue divine light shot out from his finger. Rumble! It was as if a boundless dark blue tide had risen in the endless void. Huge waves surged to the sky. The rich divine light surged like a tide, and after a while, it turned into a huge vortex that blocked the dream kingdom. Heaven rank law, endless vortex. The pitch-black divine light hit the huge vortex and was suddenly swallowed by it. It's impolite not to reciprocate. A murderous intent flashed in Qin Feng's eyes. Heaven rank law, elemental strike. The huge vortex spun faster and suddenly turned into a dark blue brilliance that could shatter heaven and earth. It followed the path of the abomination lord and charged toward it. Above the mountain range, an extremely beautiful blue light locked onto the mountain range like a rainbow and blasted down. Boom! The mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. In the terrifying explosion, the huge mountain range was broken by the beautiful blue light. Debris filled the sky, and the entire ancient temple suddenly sank into the depths of the earth. At this moment, sensing the huge movement, many experts in the northern spirit region could not help but look in the direction of the ancient temple with shocked expressions. That huge fluctuation was simply terrifying to the extreme. In the aftermath, there was a trace of a supreme aura that was almost impossible to defend against. Nether City, Yen Clan. Wang Daoi's figure appeared in a building as he looked in the direction of the Abomination Lord's temple. He muttered to himself, "It seems like Qin Feng is attacking." The other aura seems to belong to one of the 72 ancient evil gods, the Abomination Lord. Then why is the Abomination Lord fighting with Qin Feng? With a surprised expression, his gaze followed a strange fluctuation in the unseen world and landed on a huge dreamland that looked like an illusory sun. When he sensed the essence of the power within, Wang Daoi came to a realization. The dream god's authority. No wonder the Abomination Lord couldn't help but jump out. Wang Daoi instantly understood the source of the conflict. He shook his head inwardly. Even though the dream god's authority was not very important, it was extremely unique and overlapped with most of the evil god's authorities. If Qin Feng wanted to monopolize the dream god's authority, it would not be easy. Chapter 1087. Rumble. In the depths of the earth veins, a thick black godly power burst out and formed a terrifying eye. As soon as the eye appeared, the dream realm instinctively trembled in fear, as if the eye was the nemesis of the dream realm. It was so heavy and oppressive that it caused people to suffocate. It was also so specific and sharp that it felt as if 10,000 blades had pierced through their bodies. Once they saw this evil eye, they instantly felt fear. The curse seeped into every pore of their body, squeezing their brains, tearing their nerves, sucking their marrow, and annihilating their souls. "What is this?" So scary, I feel like my soul is being sucked away by this horrifying eye. Eye of fear. Qin Feng's expression changed slightly. This was a supreme treasure of the ancient evil path. Although it was not as powerful as the desolate Dragon Gate, the Sui Sovereign's imperial seal was still an origin treasure that surpassed first-rate supreme treasures. Qin Feng felt like the entire dream realm was being sucked away by this eye. However, after sensing it carefully, Qin Feng shook his head. The aura of this eye of fear was too weak. It was far from the real eye of fear in the legends. I'm afraid this is just a temporary manifestation of a part of the Supreme Treasure's power. However, it was still very impressive. The Abomination Lord that was originally only at the peak of the 14th level had reached the 15th level after turning into this horrifying eye of fear. It had the power to threaten a 15th level expert. It came at the right time. After devouring this evil god, the dream realm should be able to evolve into a large kingdom. Celestial law, endless whirlpool. Qin Feng raised his hand and pointed his finger again. A huge whirlpool appeared, and at the same time, the chaotic divine kingdom's laws of heaven and earth surged into the whirlpool. Boom, boom, boom. The huge whirlpool covered thousands of miles in the sky, covering the entire sky as if the entire sky had turned into a whirlpool. The eye of fear that the Abomination Lord had turned into was suddenly sucked in. From the eye of fear came a roar and turned into a demonic shadow. The terrifying thing was that this demonic shadow had hundreds of arms, and on each arm was a pitch-black demonic eye of fear. The baleful aura emanating from the demonic shadow instantly reached an unprecedented level of tyranny. It was almost 10 times more powerful than before. In an instant, everything in the surroundings was illuminated by the evil light and fell into a kind of hazy distortion, blurring and changing. It was becoming more and more strange and terrifying, as if it was a burning abyss of fear. Qin Feng could even see that the fear and emotions of many living beings in the northern spirit region had turned into divine power, which was absorbed by him endlessly and became stronger and stronger. It was like a rolling snowball. Qin Feng's expression was solemn. The power of this Abomination Lord had already broken through the threshold of level 15. He had a few extremely rare divine positions. As long as there were living creatures in the world, emotions like hatred, and fear could become the source of his power. This was similar to the Dream Kingdom. The pitch-black demonic eye on the arm of the thousand hands spectre burst forth, as if thousands of demonic lights were bursting out. In the void, the gigantic vortex solidified under the devilish light. It was corroded, transforming into nothingness at a rate visible to the naked eye. At the same time, over 1,000 beams of demonic light shot towards Qin Feng's main body. Die! The cold and emotionless voice that came from the unseen world almost froze Qin Feng's soul. Arrogant! Qin Feng sneered. Even if you have mastered the body of a half-step supreme demon god, do you really think you can fight against me? Qin Feng's figure changed, and a dense black qi gradually appeared around him. A supreme demonic Tao might surged out from the cloudy mist mountain. Countless living beings in the mountains and rivers sensed this aura, and their legs turned to jelly as they knelt on the ground. Even true Lord Fairy Sound, true Lord Green Lotus, and other sages were no exception. They did not even dare to think of resisting. At that moment, Qin Feng's aura skyrocketed. If he could only be compared to an ordinary level 15 expert before, then he was now a level 15 true god. His strength had increased by more than 10 times. Vast demonic path. A formless black light shot out from the void like a shooting star and hit the Abomination Lord with 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes. It was accompanied by an incredulous roar. The demonic body suddenly collapsed. The demonic body turned into thousands of fragments and fell to the ground like a storm. The Abomination Lord's demonic body was shattered? In the dark, many evil gods were horrified. The The 72 evil pillar gods were all peak experts of the ancient era of evil gods. Although the Abomination Lord was ranked 68, he was not weaker than some top heavenly experts. He was only a step away from becoming a king. Even if you are a true god of a foreign species, I can't kill you. I'll make you pay the price. Amidst the angry roar, thick black light undulated like waves in the depths of the earth. The endless power of fear borne by all living beings was absorbed by him continuously, and he recovered quickly. Is that so? In terms of control of negative emotions, you can't compare to me. Qin Feng sneered. The Abomination Lord was too naive. The Supreme Demon King of the otherworldly demon's ability was activated, and an extremely powerful force appeared in the sky, absorbing the power of fear formed by all living beings first. This was taking drastic measures. Without absorbing the power of fear of all living beings, the Abomination Lord was like a toothless tiger. This, feeling the surrounding power of fear being rejected and drawn away, the Abomination Lord couldn't believe his eyes. Not only did that unknown powerful being control the power of water, but he also controlled a large portion of the powers of all negative energies in this world. The Abomination Lord exuded a dense dark light, and a fourth-tier deity seat formed by the power of fear and hatred floated in the air. It was using its fourth-tier deity seat to fight for the power of fear in this world, but what made the Abomination Lord panic was that he was actually unable to compete with that being. Qin Feng was still activating his Holy Emperor divinity, and the power of the Holy Emperor set up layers of invisible seals around the mountain range. The fourth-tier power of the Abomination Lord was indeed powerful, but how could it compare to the Holy Emperor divinity seat of a state? Just as well. After subduing this evil god, I can turn him into an evil god under the rule of the demonic Tao and turn him into the Dream Realm's god of fear, the guardian of the Dream Realm. Qin Feng smiled coldly. The power of a heavenly law appeared. Heaven-tier law, life reincarnation. With the support of rich demonic Tao laws, a black light traversed the endless void and blasted into the body of the Abomination Lord, who was struggling to reconstruct his true body. The power of life reincarnation transformed into an endless mental demon space, trapping the Abomination Lord's divine sense, obliterating it and transforming it. No. With a furious roar, the Abomination Lord's face revealed obvious fear, and the evil Tao laws on his body began to irreversibly transform into demonic Tao laws. A smile appeared on Qin Feng's face. Suddenly, his expression changed. Rumble. Following that cold snort, the void collapsed, and the entire sky turned into an endless void of darkness. A huge hand that blotted out the sky reached out from the deepest part of the void. The lines on the huge palm were extremely clear, and they crisscrossed like deep ravines, exuding an abyss-like black light. The palm grabbed toward the cloud mist mountain as if it wanted to grab the entire world. Chapter 1088. It had a slightly evil and majestic aura, and a trace of supreme divine aura. Another evil god had made his move. Qin Feng sensed a hint of the power of the avarice divine aura in that divine aura. It contained lust for beauties, treasures, techniques, and power. It seemed to possess greed for everything in the world. The Avarice Lord, ranked 63rd among the 72 evil pillar gods. In Nether City, Wang Daoi's eyes shone with a faint divine light. Heaven rank law, life absorption. Deep in Yunwu Mountain, on the throne, Qin Feng's expression did not change. He was multitasking. Another faint blue divine light flew out from his body and collided with a giant hand above his head. Qi. Qi. Silently, under the shocked gazes of countless experts, the giant black hand above his head shrank at a visible rate. When it landed on Yunwu Mountain, it suddenly turned into green smoke without any power to speak of. In the depths of Xingqian School, rich starlight shone. In the Lingxiao Hall, the star venerable on the throne was astonished as he muttered, Water rank law, life absorption. The remaining 28 constellation lords of the 27 main peaks all had different expressions on their faces. The many star kings and star lords under their command had different expressions. Some were amazed, some were jealous, and some were indifferent. In an ancient temple deep in the crimson flame spirit region, a kind old man in a black robe with demonic eyes looked up in surprise. At this moment, Qin Feng's gaze seemed to penetrate the endless void and landed on the old man in a black robe. Qin Feng was slightly surprised. It was hard to imagine that the cruel and sinister avarice lord of the ancient times would look so kind, like an old man next door. Kill! Qin Feng's eyes were cold. Like a demon god, he raised his hand and pointed his finger. A dot of black water light seemed to cross the endless void and blasted out of the void. The avarice lord's expression changed. Like a beam of black light, he disappeared from where he stood in an instant. Bang! The huge stream of light blasted the temple, which silently turned into nothingness in the black water light. Water rank law, black water devouring. He ran away? In the void, a pair of eyes appeared above the mountain range. The appearance of this pair of eyes made countless experts of the Scarlet Flame spirit domain shudder. They couldn't help but feel aghast and extremely nervous. His light blue eyes scanned the surroundings. Many living beings who were swept by his gaze felt as if they were ants beneath his feet. Their muscles were stiff, and they could not move at all. They were insignificant and helpless. A moment later, his eyes faded away. Many experts heaved a sigh of relief. Their legs went soft, and they couldn't help but collapse onto the ground. It was too terrifying. A big fish got away. What a pity! This evil god should be the Lord of Avarice, ranked 63rd among the 72 ancient evil gods. If I can capture him, refine him, and use the essence of avarice to water the Dreamscape Kingdom, I might be able to turn the Dreamscape Kingdom into a true divine kingdom. Feeling slightly regretful, Qin Feng's gaze fell on the depths of the northern spirit region, where the Abomination Lord was. Oh well, at least there's a big fish in the net. Divine light swept out, bringing the Abomination Lord, who had fallen into the endless mental demon's illusions, into the dream realm. A moment later, like a black light, it fell into the Dreamscape Kingdom. Qin Feng's thoughts moved, and thick flames enveloped the Abomination Lord. The Dreamscape Kingdom's essence within the Dreamscape Kingdom also cooperated with the divine fire to refine the Abomination Lord. Kid, let me go. The Abomination Lord's cold voice came from the divine fire, full of the power of fear. There was a kind of power that could penetrate one's heart, spreading countless feelings of fear. It seemed to be able to catalyze and control the emotions in Qin Feng's heart. Abomination Lord, you don't have to show off your evil god methods in front of me. It's useless against me. Qin Feng's expression was cold. The most terrifying power of the evil god, who controlled negative emotions such as fear and hatred, was that he could use his senses to influence the subconscious and magnify the most negative emotions in the depths of anyone's heart step by step. Using negative emotions to catalyze the heavy emotions in one's heart, he broke through the barrier between reality and the heart, and let these negative emotions directly materialize into reality. Combined with the evil god's abilities, he could unleash all kinds of mysterious effects. Even the real Lord of Fear could be reborn directly from the fear of all living beings. Just like the inner demon, as long as there was fear, he could be immortal and indestructible. Kid, I advise you to calm down. Once I die, you should know the consequences, right? The Abomination Lord was still unwilling to give up. What consequences? Qin Feng's expression was cold as he controlled the divine power in his body and combined it with the Dreamscape Kingdom to transform into divine fire, burning the Abomination Lord inch by inch. To tell you the truth, I'm one of the 72 evil gods of the ancient era. Once you kill me, you'll offend all 72 evil gods. Otherwise, you'll become the enemy of all 72 evil gods. The Abomination Lord's tone was cold. The pain of being burned by the terrifying divine fire was even more painful than having one's soul extracted and refined. He didn't make a sound and instead spoke in an orderly manner. Qin Feng was a little surprised. These ancient evil gods did have some connections. This evil god had probably cultivated his heart to a perfect and flawless state. Qin Feng couldn't be bothered to pay attention to this evil god. These evil gods were full of lies. It would be a miracle if he could believe them. The Abomination Lord seemed to have seen through Qin Feng's thoughts behind his indifference, and hurriedly said, "Brat, don't doubt me. At this point, there's no reason for me to lie to you. The 72 evil pillar gods were born from the laws of the corrupt path. With each death, the laws of the corrupt path will weaken. You're making an enemy of all the corrupt path's evil gods. You should think twice. Abomination Lord, you don't have to say any more. Whether you're telling the truth or not, you're going to die today," Qin Feng said, his face filled with cold, killing intent. The divine fire burned brightly. Sizzle! The Abomination Lord's true body, the 1,000-armed and 1,000-eyed evil god's true body, began to melt. The rich aura of the Abomination origin merged into the Dreamscape Kingdom, and the Dreamscape Kingdom began to materialize like a sun. It was beginning to turn illusory into reality. "Kid, don't go too far. Even a rabbit will bite when cornered. If I self-destruct now, I'm afraid your Dreamscape Kingdom will." The Abomination Lord carried a hint of threat. "Indeed, a rabbit will bite when cornered. But in my eyes, you're not even comparable to a rabbit. At most, you're an ant." Qin Feng sneered. A huge amount of divine power shot out, and with a bang, the Abomination Lord's true body shattered into pieces. Balls of divine fire split the true body into pieces and refined it inch by inch. Ah! The Abomination Lord finally couldn't take it anymore and let out a despairing rage. His true body had been shattered, and he couldn't even self-destruct. "Kid, I curse you to die a horrible death. You'll die without a burial place in the future." The Abomination Lord let out a despairing curse. Balls of curse that were so dense that they were almost corporeal flew out and entangled Qin Feng. That terrifying resentment curse was something that even an ordinary 15th-level heaven-rank powerhouse would have to retreat from. Qin Feng wasn't shocked. Instead, he was delighted. Instead, a smile appeared on his face. What a good person! Even after death, he still wants to give me supplements. The curse landed on him like a ray of black light, and it was easily refined by the supreme demonic power of the supreme grade. It turned into pure demonic power and merged into the extraterrestrial demon's true body, becoming more and more mysterious. It was a small supplement. At the same time, the Abomination Lord's true body was completely refined and turned into a ball of origin that merged into the Dreamscape Kingdom. The entire Dreamscape Kingdom, which was like an illusory sun, underwent a drastic change. In an instant, it turned into a stream of light and silently disappeared before Qin Feng's eyes. Not long after, it appeared on the ancient war tree in the northern spiritual region. Under Qin Feng's control, it merged with the ancient war tree. There's more later. Chapter 1089. Qin Feng had thought of merging the Dream Kingdom with the ancient war tree a long time ago. The Dream Kingdom was born in the hearts of all living beings and had no foundation. It was easy to become a target. But once it merged with the ancient war tree, it would be different. With the protection of the ancient war tree, even if an ordinary person found the Dream Kingdom, they would not be able to break it easily. Even if they could break it, they would have to consider the consequences. The only difficulty was how to smoothly merge the Dream Kingdom with the ancient war tree. The ancient war tree was one of the many nature-type spirit roots in the ancient era. The Dream Kingdom belonged to the Dream attribute. Although the two did not conflict much, it was not easy to merge them. Fortunately, the Dream Kingdom was a special kind of illusory kingdom and not a normal kingdom. In addition, the extreme grade Chaos Origin Divine Power had a mystery that surpassed the heavenly Tao. It could devour and merge with any strange energy, which gave Qin Feng confidence. In fact, it was just as he expected. With the Chaos Origin Divine Power, some of the repulsion between the Dream Kingdom and the ancient War Tree were easily reconciled. The Dream Realm silently merged with the spirit domain protected by the ancient War Tree and became a strange existence. It had the protection of the ancient War Tree and suppressed its power. It was the guardian of the land. At the same time, it also had a part of the Dream Kingdom's ability. It could absorb the dreams of countless living beings in the northern spirit region and, in turn, nourish the ancient War Tree and help it evolve. On the tree, some Qin family experts found that the originally majestic crown of the tree had become even more mysterious. The branches emitted a hazy and transparent luster. The flower buds were like the dreams of countless living beings. Those fruits were indeed like spirit fruits and emitted rich medicinal properties. This was a brand new, mutated ancient tree. Rather than calling it the ancient War Tree, it was better to call it the ancient Dream Tree. Also, because the Dream Kingdom had merged with the ancient War Tree, this new ancient Dream Tree was almost like Qin Feng's second clone. This was Qin Feng's other trump card. He was worried that if he suddenly died or disappeared one day, the people around him would lose their protection and become sheep in the eyes of others. With this ancient dream tree, as it absorbed more and more dream energy, if it could cover the surrounding outer realms, it would become an existence on par with a lord sooner or later. That was a lord-level existence that was not a lord. Northern Spirit Region, East Radiance Peak, where the Biling sect was located. The moment the ancient dream tree was born, the celestial venerables of the Biling sect felt it. A strange energy appeared from the unseen world. It absorbed the spiritual energy emitted by the countless living beings in the northern spirit region. Even the East Radiance Peak's Biling sect could not escape the shroud of this invisible energy. Many celestial venerables looked around and saw a towering ancient tree. That ancient tree exuded a strange aura that they had never seen before. It was dreamlike, illusory, and ethereal, yet it actually existed. The ancient War Tree has mutated. The celestial venerables of the Biling sect were naturally aware of the existence of the ancient War Tree. Part of the aura emitted by this strange ancient tree belonged to the ancient War Tree. It was obviously the original ancient War Tree. Among the 6 celestial venerables, Absolute Frost Celestial Venerables, Absolute Frost Celestial Venerables, Celestial Venerables, Celestial Venerables, Celestial Venerables, Celestial Venerables, Celestial Venerables, Celestial Venerables all had different expressions. Isn't this the Qin clan's territory? That ancient War Tree actually emitted such a strange mutation. Celestial Venerable Bing Ju's expression was solemn, and there was no lack of surprise in his eyes. That ancient War Tree could be said to be extremely precious. The Biling sect had always been plotting against it. That Qin clan is really strange. They suddenly appeared to destroy the Wu clan and occupy the ancient War Tree. Now, they actually caused such a strange mutation to happen to the ancient War Tree. Celestial Venerable Misty Rain was a woman. Her stockings were covered in dust, and a hazy brilliance enveloped her body. However, there was a trace of seriousness in her words. These days, ever since they found out that the Wu clan had been destroyed, a new Qin clan had emerged. The Biling sect abruptly sent people to investigate as well. However, the results of the investigation shocked the entire Biling sect. This Qin clan seemed to have appeared out of thin air. What was especially strange was that this Qin clan's strength was so low that it made one's hair stand on end. They were almost inferior to some of the third-rate clans in the Biling sect. These days, the Biling sect had been preparing to test this Qin clan. However, this change now caused the Biling sect's celestial venerables to feel a strong sense of unease. Senior Sister Sect Master, what kind of power is this? It seems to be able to tug at my spirit and interfere with my control of laws. All the celestial venerables looked at the strongest celestial venerable Bingju. Most of the celestial venerables were at the early or middle 14th level. Only the strongest celestial venerable Bingju was at the late 14th level. He was also the most knowledgeable among them all. At this juncture, they could only place their hopes on celestial venerable Bingju. Junior brothers and junior sisters, I only know that it's a strange existence. It might be related to the power of the heavenly dream realm. After celestial venerable Bingju finished speaking, he pondered for a moment before continuing. Its roots are rooted in the earth veins and it absorbs the power of the heavenly dream realm. Now, it's rapidly improving and can even faintly mobilize a portion of the northern spirit region's power of origin. If one isn't at the 15th level, I'm afraid it'll be very difficult to shake this colossus. Being able to mobilize the northern spirit region's power of origin, doesn't this mean that its power can cover the entire northern spirit region? This way, our Biling sect, all the celestial venerables' expressions changed and became extremely gloomy. Celestial venerable Bingju had a complicated and bitter expression on his face. With this ancient tree, the other forces in the northern spirit region basically had nothing to do with it. The Biling sect was known as the overlord of the northern spirit region, but in the future, it would only be an empty shell. Senior Sister Sect Master, we can't let this spirit root exist. If it doesn't die, our Biling sect will be in danger. If the disciples know that we've lost control of the northern spirit region, I'm afraid, among the celestial venerables, the most dignified celestial venerable Jade Saint's face flashed with a fierce look. The murderous intent in his divine consciousness was ferocious. All the celestial venerables' faces were also filled with reluctance. The Biling sect had endured for so long and finally overturned the great sunlight temple above their heads. It was not easy to open up the situation. They were going to go all out. If they lost their foundation in the northern spirit region, they would be like water without a source, a tree without a root. They were afraid that they would soon perish and be swallowed up by the large sects of other continents. The drastic measures taken by the ancient dream tree had practically forced the Biling sect into a desperate situation. On the 6 celestial venerable peaks, the divine consciousnesses of the various celestial venerables collided. It was so quiet that it was somewhat frightening. Suddenly, celestial venerable Snowhan raised his eyes and said, "Actually, you don't have to be too worried. Have you all forgotten about our plan? As long as we destroy Xingqian School and snatch Xingqian School's territory, we won't have to be afraid of not having a territory. When the time comes, we might be able to borrow the strength of the various sects to get rid of this strange tree. I believe that with the miraculous power of this strange ancient tree, no one will be unmoved." Chapter 1090. All the celestial venerables nodded. Celestial venerable Bingju's words were exactly what everyone was thinking. The Biling sect might be able to get rid of the Qin family with the help of the other sects. Cloud Mist Mountain, in the main hall. Qin Feng opened his eyes on the throne. A hint of a smile appeared on his face. Next, he just had to wait for the ancient dream tree to become a god. Once the ancient dream tree became a god, its natal domain, the Dream Kingdom, would also become a god nation. It would become Qin Feng's second god nation. Crack, crack. Qin Feng used his divine consciousness to sense. In the Dream Kingdom, many dream-type alien races were born from the various temples and became the Qin family's guardians and warriors. He closed his eyes slightly and sensed the changes. The establishment of the Dream Kingdom was no different from building a nest for the supreme inner demons. Countless inner demons evolved at an accelerated rate. In the dream realm, the 5 essences and 6 desires were the hottest. The number and strength of the inner demons were directly related to the strength of the extraterrestrial demon king. Qin Feng walked down from the throne. He walked toward the backyard. He had already sensed that there was a big gift waiting for him there. The backyard was where the mansion master and the female members of the backyard lived. The layout was extremely exquisite. There were small bridges and flowing water everywhere. Rumble. There was also a waterfall that fell like a jade dragon. The strange thing was that the sound of the waterfall was like the sound of thunder after passing through a layer of enchantment. It was like the sound of spring wind and rain. In a palace, Du Pingxia's hands moved uneasily. Her hair was combed into a phoenix bun, and a golden hairpin made her look like a golden phoenix spreading its wings. Her hair fell like a waterfall, and her beautiful face was faintly red from nervousness. She looked like a fairy. Her eyes flashed with a hint of complexity. There was shyness, helplessness, and a kind of nervousness. At this time, she no longer had the courage to make up her mind. Instead, she had the urge to escape from this palace. Du Pingxia, were you possessed? How could you have such an idea? You actually recommended yourself to be my wife. Have you forgotten your ambition? You've never been weaker than any man in your life. Why would you do such a shameless thing? As she thought about it, she couldn't help but stand up and walk out of the palace. Bang! Suddenly, she bumped into a black shadow. It was as if she had bumped into a wall. Her body fell back, but a black shadow flashed and grabbed her soft and boneless waist. Just as Du Pingxia was about to struggle, he suddenly sensed a familiar aura and raised his head. Senior brother? Junior sister, why are you here? Her starry eyes looked at Du Pingxia with a faint smile. His eyes scanned the surroundings. This was his sleeping quarters. Du Pingxia's face turned slightly red. She lowered her head and stammered nervously. Senior brother. I went to the wrong place. She was beautiful, especially since she was born in the royal family of the Yen Kingdom and was the first princess of the great Yen Kingdom. Noble and elegant. At this moment, her beautiful face was flushed red, and there was an indescribable charm to her. Senior brother, you've just finished cultivating. You must be tired. Pingxia won't disturb your rest. As soon as she finished speaking, she hurriedly walked around Qin Feng as if she was running away. However, when she passed by Qin Feng grabbed her waist with one hand. Senior brother, let go of me. Let's do this. Qin Feng moved closer to the beautiful girl's small and sparkling earlobe and blew a breath of air. Junior sister, since you're here today, why don't you stay and rest with me? Du Pingxia's small and sparkling earlobe instantly turned as red as blood. Her eyes became watery as she used the last of her strength to protest. Senior brother, we can't do this. You promised Pingxia that you wouldn't touch Pingxia's body. Qin Feng chuckled. As Du Pingxia exclaimed, a graceful girl's soft body appeared. I did promise you. But today, you're the one who delivered yourself to me. It doesn't count. Sizzle! Along with the sound of cloth tearing, the girl's delicate exclamation followed. However, it soon turned into a strange voice with a different tone. In front of an ancient relic, powerful existences gathered one after another. Is this the place? What a huge divine tree! I didn't expect there to be such a terrifying ancient tree here. It's like the legendary world tree, the Eastern Azure Wood. The huge ancient tree towered into the sky. When it raised its head, one couldn't see the end of it. It was like the backbone of the world. In front of this huge divine tree, many powerful beings were like ants on the ground. Senior brother Gong Ao, is the Eastern Wilderness divine treasure on this ancient tree? The ancient star lords, who were burning like suns, looked at the milky white figure in the middle of the crowd. The radiance on his body was dim. He was not like the ancient star lords. He looked to be about 30 years old and had a small beard. He looked like an ordinary official in many countries. Although he had the aura of a ruler, it was not strong. His aura was not strong. However, his eyes were different. They carried a coldness that surpassed that of an emperor. They were like the eyes of a demon god. It was abnormally terrifying. "It's here." His voice was low and had a special charm. He was dressed in white and had a special otherworldly aura. He looked at the top of the tree. "If I'm not wrong, the Eastern Wilderness Great Emperor's secret inheritance vault is at the top of this towering divine tree. Martial Nephew Gong Ao, I'll open the door for you." A Star Lord's eyes flashed with a strange light. He chuckled and flew toward the top of the divine tree like a shooting star. "How dare you, Jade Flame Star Lord!" Seeing this Star Lord's action, many powerful beings could not help but shout angrily. They wanted to stop him. However, Gong Ao stopped everyone. "Senior brother, why didn't you stop Jade Flame Star Lord? If you let him enter the secret vault first, I'm afraid we—" On the side, a bald, red-haired Star Lord in a fiery red robe was puzzled. Many Star Lords also had strange expressions. "Ah!" All of a sudden, an extremely abrupt scream rang out from the void. Everyone raised their heads. After taking a look, their expressions changed drastically. In the void, a huge green claw suddenly reached out from the trunk and grabbed Jade Flame Star Lord, who had flown up earlier. At this moment, this ancient Star Lord at level 14 was like a distorted sun, crumbling inch by inch under the huge claw. "Martial Nephew Gong Ao, senior brothers, save me." Jade Flame Star Lord struggled violently in the green light. His face was filled with fear. However, no matter how hard he tried, he could not break free from the huge green claw. As the huge claw exerted force, an extremely miserable scream resounded throughout the entire ruin. Many powerful beings felt chills all over. A level 14 Supreme was actually grabbed by that huge claw like an ant and crushed to death. There was actually such a terrifying thing entrenched in this tree. "No!" Following an extremely terrified scream, the miserable screams stopped abruptly. The shrill screams stopped abruptly. The enormous green sun exploded, turning into sparks of fire that shot out in all directions. It was as if countless green feathers of fire were flying in all directions. Jade Flame Star Lord had completely fallen. There's more later. Chapter 1091. Martial Nephew Gong, what's going on? A Star Venerate revealed a terrified expression. A level 14 Star King died just like that. This was too terrifying. The level 14 Blue Flame Star King was an expert from several eras ago. He had lived for almost 10,000 years. He was also one of the best among the old antiques who had revived in Xingqian school. His original Blue Flame 7 Stars scripture was ranked at the top of the many classics in Xingqian school. He was very famous. "Everyone, I've heard some rumors. I once got a piece of information about this secret treasure. It seems that after the Great of Eastern Wilderness became a king god, he sealed his inheritance in a very secretive place. Rumor has it that this place is where he imprisoned many evil gods." A Star King's eyes flickered. "Wisdom Star King, your information is not reliable. Why would the great emperor's inheritance be placed in a prison that imprisoned those evil gods?" Many Star Kings shook their heads. They felt that this was unbelievable. Gong Ao glanced at Wisdom Star King with a slightly surprised expression. "At first, it sounds a bit unreliable. But after careful analysis, it might not be impossible." Wisdom Star King smiled slightly. Many Star Kings looked at this Star King who had a scholarly aura. Wisdom Star King was also one of the Star Kings in the ancient times. It was said that he had obtained the inheritance of the Knowledge Star, one of the many stars. The Knowledge Star was unpredictable and had the most wisdom. Wisdom Star King was also one of the best among the inheritors of the Knowledge Star. In the sect, it was said that Wisdom Star King had comprehended part of the true meaning of wisdom and had reincarnated at least 5 times. After the ancient times, Xingqian school had accumulated many Star Kings, and Star Lords who had self-proclaimed themselves. However, Wisdom Star King was definitely one of the famous ruthless characters. Needless to say, as a Star King who had cultivated the path of wisdom, he had profound knowledge and wisdom that was as deep as the sea. He had always been famous in the sect. Thus, many astral kings and astral lords maintained a trace of respect for the astral king of wisdom. Wisdom Star King, please enlighten us. I don't dare to enlighten you. Wisdom Star King glanced at the many curious experts. Intelligent Star King smiled calmly. The origin of the great emperor of the East continent is very strange. There are many rumors about him, but most of them are false. However, one thing is for sure. He is not like the rumors. He is full of justice and fighting for the human race. Wise Star King, what you said is wrong. According to the ancient legends, if it weren't for the great Eastern Wasteland Emperor, how could the 72 mysterious sects have become the overlords of the Spirit Sea continent? Neither would the barbarian race and the sea race have fallen. A Star King's face didn't approve. According to ancient legends, the Eastern Wilderness Emperor was the leader of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors of the human race. He could be said to be an ancestor-like figure. Wasn't it a slap in the face to speak ill of the ancestor? Not only this Star King, but many other Star Kings and Star Lords were also skeptical. Intelligent Star King shook his head. That's because you don't know the origin of the great Emperor of Eastern Wilderness. In fact, the great Emperor of Eastern Wilderness is not a pure human ancestor. How could that be? Many Star Kings couldn't help but widen their eyes. In the primordial era, the human race wasn't called the human race. Instead, it was called the human ancestor race. The ancestors of the primordial human ancestor race were all born with the same starting line as the demon race, the sea race, and the dragon race. They had great strength and the bloodline of gods and demons. Once they reached adulthood, they would have terrifying strength. Unlike the current era, where the human ancestor race's body had completely degenerated, Intelligent Star King sighed. In fact, he was the first true human ancestor. Back then, he was bullied and ostracized by the human ancestor race. He was even called a bastard. They thought that he had tarnished the appearance of the primordial human ancestor. They wanted to purify and eliminate him. This was really earth-shattering. Many Star Kings were stupefied by this news. Intelligent Star King glanced at everyone and said again, "The great Emperor of the Eastern Wasteland is a person who clearly distinguishes between kindness and hatred. He has never done anything that repaid evil with kindness. Do you think he would fight to the death with the sea race and the barbarian race for the sake of the ancient ancestor? Then how did the human race rise?" A Star King couldn't help but interject. The dividing line between the primordial era and the primordial era was the rise of the human race. The first era of the primordial era was the Eastern Wilderness era, followed by the 4 Wilderness era, the 5 Emperors era. Yes, I'm not sure about the hundreds of eras of the primordial era. However, there was a rumor that after he defeated the Sea Emperor and the barbarian race's undying barbarian ancestor, he forcefully captured the human ancestor race and locked them in a huge prison. He also promised that unless his successor forgave them, they would be locked up until the end of time, or even until the end of all living things. No way, the great Emperor of Eastern Wilderness captured the entire human ancestor race and locked them up until they died. But the human ancestor race wasn't weak. Some of the Star Kings gulped. In the primordial era, there were countless talent. Emperors like by Emperor were not rare. If this was the truth, then the great Emperor of Eastern Wilderness was too powerful. Many Star Kings knew some secrets of the primordial era. In the primordial era, The human ancestor race was divided into 5 ranks. Sciention life form, 9 furnace powerhouse, human king, human sovereign, and finally ultimate human ancestor. The human ancestor race was born as a Sciention life form. With a little bit of cultivation, they could reach the peak of the 3rd step sea revolution realm. The so-called 9 furnace powerhouse. This was the boundary before reaching the 8th step saint realm. The human king rank was equal to a 12th step world king. To become a human king, one could be considered outstanding amongst the human ancestors. They were all outstanding elites of their time. A peak human king's strength surpassed the peak of the 14th step. They could casually beat up some evil gods. As for human sovereigns, they were equal to a 15th step true divinity. Amongst the human ancestors, there were only a limited number of human sovereigns. A peak human sovereign could even wrestle with a sovereign. Their mortal bodies were undying and indestructible, their feet trampling over the earth, mountains, and rivers, using the stars, sun, and moon as weapons. As for ultimate human ancestors, their mortal bodies were undying and their strength was not inferior to a peak sovereign's. They were great existences that crossed countless dimensions and time. Although the first era of the primordial era didn't necessarily have an ultimate human ancestor, it definitely had a peak human sovereign. Moreover, the primordial human ancestor race stood side by side with the 100 primordial races. There must have been some ordinary existences. The great emperor of Eastern Wilderness was able to destroy the entire primordial human ancestor race. His courage was truly fascinating. So, this is the legendary place where the human ancestor is imprisoned? Many star kings and star lords raised their heads and looked at the giant tree above them with strange looks in their eyes. There was an unconcealable fervor in their eyes. The human ancestor's body had been lost since the primordial era. Very few people had successfully cultivated it. If one could truly cultivate the human ancestor's body, even if they didn't directly become immortal, their lifespan would greatly increase. The increase in their combat strength would also be enormous. In the legends, the human ancestor was a terrifying existence that could directly contend with a 15th step true divinity with his mortal body. There's more to come. Chapter 1092. Any one of the human emperors of the primordial era could beat up everyone present, except for Gong Ao. The star kings and star lords were both nervous and expectant. As long as they could obtain a drop of the human ancestor's blood essence, it would be much easier to return to the human ancestor's body. In the depths of Xingqian School, dense starlight shone. In the Lingshao Palace, on the largest and highest constellation, the headmaster star venerable bathed in starlight, like an emperor among star lords. The dense 5-colored canopy was like an umbrella, indescribably sacred and majestic. As one of the strongest headmasters in the history of Xingqian School, the headmaster star venerable's strength had always been speculated by many star lords and star kings. However, no matter how they guessed, the headmaster star venerable always seemed to be covered by a thin veil, and no one could see through him. Even the number 1 true disciple, Gong Ao, who was said to be as strong as any demon god, did not dare to show any disrespect to the headmaster star venerable. They could only test him secretly. Senior brother headmaster, Gong Ao, has already found the location of the great Eastern Wilderness divine treasure. Many elders in the sect have already made their move secretly. Should we also? In the main hall, an ancient star king was eager to give it a try. The great Eastern Wilderness divine treasure was one of the 5 emperors. Even a Lord God would be tempted by his inheritance. I'm afraid not. Gong Ao took away many of the sect's hidden forces. If we also make a move, I'm afraid Xingqian School will be destroyed in a day. Hornwood Star Lord's eyes were filled with worry. On the side, the other Star Lords of the 28 summits also looked solemn. He saw that many Star Kings seemed to be displeased. Among the 28 mansions, Gui Jinxing Lord, the head of Gui Jinxing Peak, sighed. Have you all forgotten about the Heaven and Earth sect and the Demon Temple? An old Star Lord said disapprovingly. Martial nephew Gui Jin, don't worry too much. We all covet the great Eastern Wilderness inheritance. I don't believe that the other sects will hold back. I admit that they have always had ulterior motives against Xingqian School, but I think that even if they make a move, they will wait until the great Eastern Wilderness divine treasure has an owner. Hearing this, many powerhouses of Xingqian School in the hall nodded secretly. This old Star King represented many powerful people in Xingqian School. For a moment, everyone in the hall was moved. Many people were ready to make a move. Everyone, could it be that you think you can win against Gong Ao? Suddenly, a voice sounded. Many of the Xingqian School cultivators' expressions changed. When they looked up, their expressions became extremely ugly. The celestial monarch Golden Dragon Kong of the 28 mansions. Lu Tu Xing said indifferently. Senior brother Kong Jin's words may not be pleasant to the ears, but that's the truth. This time, I'm afraid that there will be some extremely terrifying experts participating in the competition. However, if we don't take action and the treasure falls into Gong Ao's hands, the consequences will be unimaginable. A Star King had a worried expression. Gong Ao has always been arbitrary and domineering in the way he does things. He has always been obedient and oppressive. Once his strength increases greatly, I'm afraid that those of us who have always refused to associate with him will not have a good ending. Many Star King's expressions became extremely ugly when they heard this. Although this Star King's words were a bit exaggerated, they were not without reason. Gong Ao had always been self-centered. Anyone who slightly disobeyed him would only have one ending. In Xingqian School, many elders and even Star Kings disappeared inexplicably, probably because they had angered Gong Ao. In these years, the only person who had escaped from Gong Ao's secret means was probably Qin Feng. Many Star King elders in the hall had always adhered to the impartiality of the sect's rules. Many of them were worried that Gong Ao would settle accounts with them one by one if he took the position. Of course, most of the Star King elders were the trusted subordinates of the head Star Venerable. More powerful people in Xingqian School hoped that the head Star Venerable could continue to stay in the position for a while. It would be better for him to stay in the position until there was a more suitable candidate for the next head teacher. The head Star Venerable was a gentle person. Although he had the way of the king, he was very gentle and quiet. Compared to the fierce Gong Ao, many Star Kings and Star Kings were more inclined to believe that the head Star Venerable would still be in the middle of the palace and manage the overall situation. At least with the head teacher in the position, no Star King elders would disappear silently. Head Star Venerable, why don't you make a trip personally? A Star King suggested. As soon as this was said, many Star Kings' eyes lit up as they echoed this suggestion. Senior brother head teacher, only you can suppress Gong Ao and obtain the benefits for Xingqian School. Yes, senior brother head teacher, that Gong Ao's ambition is obvious. If you don't take action, I'm afraid our Xingqian School will be destroyed in his hands. In Xingqian School, only you can suppress Gong Ao. In the hall, there was a turbulent atmosphere. On the throne, the Star Venerable opened his eyes, and a wisp of supreme majesty that surpassed the heavens and the earth appeared. In an instant, the hall fell silent. The Star Venerable looked around at everyone in the hall, and a trace of seriousness flashed in his eyes. After a moment, he sighed. I understand your worries, junior brothers, but Gong Ao is my disciple after all. How can I compete with my own disciple for the opportunity? If word gets out, it'll be disgraceful. As soon as he said this, many powerful people in Xingqian School felt their hands and feet turn cold. At this moment, the Star Venerable spoke again. However, junior brothers, you don't have to worry. Xingqian School is full of talents. Just now, someone has already taken action on behalf of me. I believe that with him around, it'll be difficult for others to obtain the benefits. What? Who is that person? Is it Wang Daoi or Qin Feng? In Xingqian School, it seems that only the Six Paths Heavenly King Wang Daoi and the primeval true King Qin Feng can suppress Gong Ao. Head Star Venerable, who is that person? In the hall, many powerful people in Xingqian School discussed animatedly. They looked at the Head Star Venerable with puzzled eyes. Everyone, there's no need to guess. He's neither the Six Paths Heavenly King nor the primeval true King. However, he's much stronger than both of them. The Head Star Venerable smiled slightly, and a strange smile appeared on his face. Could it be him? Seeing the strange expression on the Head Star Venerable's face, the 28 Peak Masters and 28 Constellations Lords who knew some secrets were all shocked. They looked at each other and saw the shock on each other's faces. On a mountain peak in Xingqian School, Koan Peng Dojo, ever since Yi Ding obtained the true inheritance of Koan Peng, he changed the original Martial Emperor Dojo to Koan Peng Dojo. Clouds covered the dojo, and a corner of the dojo was exposed. Occasionally, red-crowned cranes would fly out. In the depths of the dojo, two figures sat cross-legged facing each other. Xingqian School actually has such a monster? The one who spoke was Yi Ding. He was extremely handsome, and his eyes were like two stars. Kneeling on the cattail hassock, he looked like a heavenly noble. His pitch-black hair cascaded down his shoulders like a waterfall, and his body was like a demon. He had always been wise. However, at this moment, there was a dazed look on his handsome face. He looked extremely shocked. It was as if he had obtained some incredible secret. Chapter 1093. Yi Ding, what news did you get? Why are you so shocked? The beautiful Koan Peng Divine Maiden raised her eyebrows. Ever since Yi Ding had experienced setbacks and matured, he had rarely been so absent-minded. The Koan Peng Divine Maiden was curious. What news did Yi Ding get to make him lose his composure? You don't understand. Xingqian School has always had a mysterious inheritance. In the depths of Xingqian School, an extremely terrifying existence is sleeping. It's a being from hundreds of eras ago. Yi Ding paused and stopped talking. However, there was deep fear in his eyes. Mysterious existence? Could it be comparable to Gong Ao, Qin Feng, and Wang Daoi? Any one of them would be a top prodigy in the primordial age, a peerless figure with the potential to become a king. Could that mysterious expert be more outstanding than the three of them? The Koan Peng Divine Maiden looked doubtful. Yi Ding was silent. Even someone as arrogant as Yi Ding had to admit that the three people mentioned by the Koan Peng Divine Maiden were really strong. They were so strong that they made their peers despair. There was no need to talk about Gong Ao, especially the last two people, Qin Feng and Wang Daoi. They could be said to be true prodigies. What was even more terrifying was the speed of their growth. In just a few years, they had the power of level 15. This speed was shocking. There was no time to set up a trap to kill them. In fact, Yi Ding knew that not only Xingqian School, there were also many people from other sects who had their eyes on Qin Feng, Wang Daoi, and the other geniuses. There were even many who were prepared to take action to kill these two prodigies. However, the speed of their growth was really dazzling. Yi Ding was a little envious. He could be considered one of the more famous prodigies in Xingqian School. Now, he could feel the killing intent around him. Many experts had started to set up a trap specifically for him. One wrong step and he would die without a burial ground. However, he did not have Qin Feng and Wang Daoi's growth speed. There was bound to be a life and death calamity waiting for him in the future. However, although Qin Feng and Wang Daoi had completely grown, in Yi Ding's mind, they might not be comparable to that mysterious existence. He shook his head slightly. Seeing that Yi Ding didn't want to talk about it, The divine lady didn't force him and changed the topic. Yi Ding, you still have a chance to grow. If you can grab hold of this opportunity, you might be able to catch up to Qin Feng and Wang Daoi in the shortest time possible. The divine Kunpeng maiden spoke extremely seriously. What opportunity? Yi Ding's body shook. Even in his dreams, he wanted to catch up to Qin Feng and Wang Daoi. A strange look flashed across the divine Kunpeng maiden's eyes. A few days ago, I sensed the birth of one of my sworn enemies. Sworn enemy? Yi Ding's expression changed, and he couldn't help but raise his head. His name is Saint Sun Beiming, and he might be the last pure-blooded Kunpeng of our Kunpeng race? The Kunpeng divine maiden's expression was complicated. There was hatred, disgust, and a hint of sadness. Pure-blooded Kunpeng? Yi Ding's expression froze. He cultivated the Kunpeng swallowing the heavens art and cultivated the supreme Kunpeng divine body. If he could get his hands on a pure-blooded Kunpeng, it would be a piece of cake for him to advance to the 15th level. In an instant, an unparalleled divine light shot out from his eyes. However, you might not be able to defeat him now. He is a true 15th level existence. The divine Kunpeng maiden shook her head. Yi Ding's expression was silent. Although he had relied on many fortuitous encounters to advance by leaps and bounds and reach the 12th level of the World King realm, he was still far from the 15th level. After a moment of silence, Yi Ding raised his head and looked at the divine Kunpeng maiden. What method do you have? The divine Kunpeng maiden's beautiful face smiled. I do have a method, but you will have to suffer a little. I just don't know if you are willing? As long as I can become stronger, no matter what I do, no matter what I suffer, I, Yi Ding, will not frown. Yi Ding's starry eyes looked at the divine Kunpeng maiden. Tell me what method? The divine Kunpeng maiden glanced at Yi Ding and said, The method is simple. Borrow strength. Borrow strength from whom? Yi Ding frowned. Borrow strength from your old rival. As far as I know, Saint Sun Darknorth suffered a great loss at the hands of your old rival not too long ago. I estimate that your old rival also wants to eliminate him by the root. After all, with a 15th level enemy keeping an eye on him, he won't feel at ease. You mean Qin Feng? Yi Ding's complexion became extremely bitter. The divine Kunpeng maiden lightly said, As long as you tell Qin Feng that you have a method to track down Saint Sun Darknorth's whereabouts, I believe he will be willing to help. Cloud Mist Mountain, early in the morning. A thick fog surrounded the area. Early in the morning, at the door of Qin Feng's bedroom, a beautiful young girl wearing a light yellow palace dress escaped from the bedroom. Her hair was messy, and her hair hung behind her frail shoulders. She was limping, and her beautiful face was rosy, as if she was a delicate flower moistened by rain and dew. Her bright phoenix eyes occasionally glanced back at the palace. There was hatred, fear, and even a trace of shyness. Many disciples were dumbfounded by her womanly charm. Junior sister, walk slowly. Don't tire yourself out. Qin Feng's lazy figure came from the palace. Damn it. Hearing that, Du Pingxia's waist ached, and she almost couldn't stand steadily. Her beautiful face was as red as a fiery sunset, and she glared in the direction of the palace. She cursed silently. This bull. Hurriedly, her figure disappeared from the flower garden. At the door of the palace, Qin Feng, with his black hair draped over his shoulders, leaned lazily against the palace door in a loose, wide-sleeved gauze nightgown, and watched Du Pingxia leave in a hurry. After attaining the divine body, his physical body had returned to its original state. Instead, he could perform dual cultivation with ordinary women. Unlike ordinary divine bodies, he had to worry about ordinary women being unable to withstand the thunder rain. This time Du Pingxia was tormented. For 3 consecutive days, even an outstanding woman like Du Pingxia couldn't bear it. I hope I can leave behind an heir before I become a divine body. The Qin clan is a big family and needs an heir to inherit it. Some thoughts flashed through his mind. Qin Feng sighed. At his level of cultivation, he couldn't leave behind an heir. If he really became a divine body, it would be almost impossible for him to leave behind an heir. Unless he obtained a special treasure, he could only give birth to a divine son. The stronger he was, the lower the chances of him having an heir. Suddenly, Qin Feng's expression changed, and his eyes flashed slightly. What's the matter? In the garden, a green stream of light flashed, and a green lotus floated out, turning into a beautiful figure in green clothes. Prefecture Master Yi Ding, a true disciple of Xingqian School, requests to see you. Gongsun Jinyang lowered her head, and her face was slightly red. Her heart was beating rapidly. She had been waiting here for a day or two. She could clearly hear what was going on inside. Yi Ding, this guy still dares to come to Zhuzi Mansion to look for me? Qin Feng was greatly surprised. He ran the cosmic universe spell and slightly calculated with his fingers. After a while, a cold smile flashed across his face. Tell him I won't see him. Chapter 1094. Why aren't you leaving? You've been listening outside for a few days and can't bear to leave? Gongsun Jinyang's heart skipped a beat. She blushed and even staggered a little. She looked up. Qin Feng was looking at her mockingly. Senior brother, why do you have to tease me? Gongsun Jinyang stomped her feet and looked at Qin Feng coquettishly. She was already extremely beautiful, like a lotus flower. Now, there was anger in her beauty, which made one's heart race. Gongsun Jinyang restrained her expression and said, Senior brother, Yi Ding also said that he has information that is extremely important to you. It's related to the Eastern Wilderness Divine Treasure. Eastern Wilderness Divine Treasure. The smile on Qin Feng's face vanished as he pondered. He thought to himself, he actually used the secret of the Eastern Wilderness Divine Treasure to exchange with me. Could it be that Yi Ding and Gong Ao have fallen out? Qin Feng's eyes flickered. He looked up and glanced at Gongsun Jinyang, who was still blushing. Tell Yi Ding that I'll be there soon. Yes. Gongsun Jinyang heaved a sigh of relief. Her body flashed and she left the palace. It was as if she was escaping. Why are you running so fast? I won't eat you. Qin Feng chuckled. After bathing and changing his clothes, he saw Yi Ding, who was greeted by Lu Tufeng and the others, in the main hall an hour later. Senior Brother Qin. Mansion Master. Perfected Lord Immortal Sound, Perfected Lord Tai Mu, Zhang Han, and the others quickly stood up from their seat. Don't stand on ceremony, everyone. Qin Feng's gaze landed on Yi Ding. Senior Brother Yi, what a rare guest. Senior Brother Yi Ding's presence brings light to my straw hut. Qin Feng looked around. Du Pingxia didn't seem to be present. Gongsun Jinyang was already here. When her eyes met Qin Feng's, Gongsun Jinyang blushed as if she had been electrocuted. She quickly looked away. This senior sister Gongsun is too shy. Qin Feng snickered inwardly. Junior fellow apprentice Qin, you're too polite. Among the inherited disciples of Xingqian School, junior fellow apprentice Qin is the best in terms of strength and status. Apart from a few people, who can compete with junior fellow apprentice Qin? Yi Ding's handsome face was full of smiles. When he saw Qin Feng walking out from the side of the main hall, he hurried forward. On the side, the saints of Lu Tufeng looked at each other. Yi Ding was also a famous genius among the legacy disciples of the sect. He was also famous for his arrogance. But this time around, he was actually being polite and fawning over the manor lord. I'm afraid he has a favor to ask of our estate master. Many experts in the hall chuckled to themselves. Qin Feng laughed mischievously as he glanced at Yi Ding. He felt good about Yi Ding's flattery, but he didn't show it on his face. After a few steps, He sat on the throne in the center of the main hall. Senior fellow apprentice Yi, I'm afraid you don't mean it. I remember senior fellow apprentice Yi once said that I, Qin Feng, am an ant in your palm. You can crush me to death however you want. Qin Feng changed to a comfortable position on the throne and looked at Yi Ding from the corner of his eyes. Back then, Yi Ding had sent people to kill him several times. Today, Yi Ding delivered himself to him. If possible, he didn't mind killing this person. Killing intent emerged. A chill emerged, and the temperature in the main hall dropped a lot. Yi Ding's expression didn't change, but he knew something was wrong in his heart. Yi Ding secretly thought that he was possessed. He actually listened to the words of the Kunpeng girl and delivered himself to the manor lord. He hurried forward a few steps and bowed down. Junior fellow apprentice Qin Feng, it's all a misunderstanding. It was instigated by Gong Ao. He couldn't bear to see other geniuses in the sect, so he sowed discord. He wanted us to kill each other so that he could benefit from it. After he finished speaking, he glanced at Qin Feng's expressionless face and hurriedly added, and this time, Yi Ding came to resolve these misunderstandings. His humble attitude had reached a level that made many experts in the main hall look askance. The saints of Lu Tufeng couldn't believe that this was Yi Ding, who was known as the Martial Marquis and was once the #1 among the younger generation of Xingchen school. Qin Feng glanced at Yi Ding below as he silently speculated. This Yi Ding has changed so much. If he was only a playboy with outstanding aptitude in the past, he now has the bearing of a martial emperor. Qin Feng squinted his eyes, and a trace of killing intent flickered in his long and narrow eyes. If he didn't take Yi Ding seriously before, now he had some qualifications for him to take seriously. If he made this person an enemy, he was afraid that he would be in big trouble. This bastard's killing intent is getting stronger, Yi Ding complained in his heart. He still had a smile on his face. Junior brother Qin, this time I specially brought you an important piece of news. It's about the Eastern Wilderness Divine Treasure. I heard that you also cultivated the 8 Wilderness Indestructible Heaven Scroll. I think this news should be useful to you. Eastern Wilderness Divine Treasure? The main hall suddenly quieted down. As long as one was a cultivator, no one would not be tempted by the inheritance of the Eastern Wilderness Great Emperor. A trace of confidence flashed across Yi Ding's face, but when he glanced at Qin Feng, his heart sank. Qin Feng's expression was cold, as if he had heard a piece of news that had nothing to do with him. When did this guy's temperament become so terrifying? He can still be so indifferent after hearing such important news. Yi Ding's heart trembled. When he heard that the Eastern Wilderness Divine Treasure had appeared, he was also in a daze for a long time. No, I have to add fuel to the fire. Yi Ding organized his words, glanced at the others, and said, moreover, I've received some specific information. The Eastern Wilderness Divine Treasure is hidden deep in the human ancestors' sealed land built by the Eastern Wilderness Great Emperor. The human ancestors' sealed land? Qin Feng's expression changed. Rumor has it that the primordial human ancestor disappeared after the primordial age. Only a few experts accidentally obtained the inheritance of the human ancestor and returned to the primordial human ancestor's body. However, even if they accidentally cultivated the primordial human ancestor's body, they would at most be in the human king realm. Qin Feng narrowed his eyes and pondered. He remembered that the demon ancestor's king of heaven real body was refined from the human ancestor's real body. If he could obtain the secrets of the primordial human ancestor's real body, he might have a chance to break free from the 8 Wilderness Indestructible Heaven Scroll and truly become a Tao of his own. Senior brother Yi, continue. Qin Feng raised his head and signaled with his eyes. This bastard really thinks of me as a servant. Yi Ding was furious, but he still had to ask Qin Feng for a favor. Although he was unwilling, he still forced a smile on his face. Also, Gong Ao has brought people to the human ancestors' sealed land and is trying to break the seal outside. I heard that most of the seals outside have been broken. The remaining experts are also rushing to the human ancestors' prison, including the experts from the top 10 divine sects of the 72 mysterious sects. Chapter 1095. It seems like the Eastern Wilderness divine treasure is about to appear. Qin Feng felt a sense of urgency in his heart. The Emperor's hidden dragon position in the Eastern Wilderness divine treasure was extremely important to him. These days, his comprehension of the 8 Desolation Indestructible Heaven Scroll was getting better and better. He knew that the Emperor's hidden dragon position was the key to breaking through the 8th level of the 8 Desolation Indestructible Heaven realm. Without the Emperor's hidden dragon position, he would never be able to break through the 8th level of the 8 Desolation Indestructible Heaven realm. Obviously, Gong Ao's enthusiasm for the Eastern Wilderness divine treasure was also because of the Emperor's hidden dragon position. Yi Ding secretly glanced at Qin Feng, who was deep in thought. He could feel that Qin Feng was tempted. He also received some news that the Emperor's hidden dragon position was extremely important to the cultivators of the 8 Desolation Indestructible Heaven Scroll. After a while, Qin Feng looked up and said, "What about the sect? What about the sects? Did the Star Venerables do anything?" The Star Venerable is guarding the Xingqian school in case someone sneaks up on the Xingqian school during the chaos. Qin Feng nodded slightly. Although not all of his assets were in the Xingqian school, many of his assets were in the Xingqian school. If something happened to the Xingqian school, many of his plans would be put on hold. Fortunately, the Star Venerable was not muddle-headed. The Star Venerable is known as one of the strongest sect masters in history. His strength is unfathomable. With him guarding the Eastern Wilderness divine treasure, even if the foreign sects sneak up on us while we are fighting for the inheritance, we should be able to buy some time. Yi Ding glanced at Qin Feng, who was not speaking. Yi Ding's eyes flashed. "Junior Qin Feng, to show my sincerity in reconciling with you, I will tell you another piece of news. I know the whereabouts of the Dark North Kingdom's saint's son who fought with you." Qin Feng's expression changed. Ever since the Dark North Holy Sun was defeated by him, he had disappeared without a trace. To be honest, Qin Feng didn't think much of the Dark North Holy Sun. But if this saint's son Dark North were to make a move on his subordinates, it would truly be troublesome. Yi Ding said again, "Junior brother Qin Feng, you should know that I'm practicing the Kuan Peng swallowing sky magic, the supreme cultivation method of the Kuan Peng clan. Over the years, with the help of a Kuan fish that I caught in the universe, I've cultivated a part of the Kuan Peng divine body. Although I'm not a pure-blood Kuan Peng, I've mastered most of the Kuan Peng heritage. I'm very confident that I can track down the pure-blood Kuan Peng." Many experts in the hall turned to look at Yi Ding when he said that. The supreme inheritance of the Kuan Peng race. This was also a great opportunity. No wonder he could rise so quickly. It turned out that he had obtained the legacy of the Kuan Peng race. Many people suddenly understood. Qin Feng looked at Yi Ding with a faint smile. After saying so much, Yi Ding's real purpose was to kill this pure-blooded Kuan Peng. Qin Feng found it strange. Yi Ding had always been a proud person. Although he might lower his head because of Yi Ding's sudden increase in strength, he would never come personally to apologize and give gifts like today. The pure-blooded Kuan Peng contains extremely pure Kuan Peng blood essence. If he can devour that pure-blooded Kuan Peng, he'll be able to advance to rank 15. What a good plan! Qin Feng mocked in his heart. In fact, Saint Bei Ming had to die. Not only because Qin Feng had formed a deadly feud with him. There was also the Battle of the Great Daos. Saint Bei Ming also cultivated the law of space. As a space elemental innate true spirit, he had an innate advantage in the fight for the space deity position. Saint Bei Ming had the majority of the space elemental luck. If he didn't die, there was a great possibility that the space deity position would fall into the hands of the last innate Kunpeng. Qin Feng knew that unless he upgraded his space elemental chaotic ancient tree to a divine spiritual root and had the help of this divine spiritual root, otherwise, he would never be able to win against this innate Kunpeng. With such thoughts in mind, Qin Feng's face was indifferent. He glanced at Yi Ding. "Senior brother Yi Ding, you don't have to worry about Saint Bei Ming. Although he's good at hiding, he won't be able to escape from my grasp. Sooner or later, I'll kill him." Yi Ding's face was slightly bitter. He was most afraid of this kind of situation. He was depressed. This time, he had suffered a double loss. He had said a lot of good words, apologized, and even offered a lot of precious information. Yi Ding's heart was burning with anger. Although he, Yi Ding, had been poor since he was young, ever since he entered Xingqian school, his path had been smooth sailing. He was the #1 outer disciple, the #1 inner disciple, and even received the favor of the #1 core disciple, Gong Ao. He could be said to be the prince of Xingqian school. With a wave of his hand, he could overturn the rain and clouds. However, ever since Qin Feng came, things started to go wrong and he started to suffer. The worst thing was that he discovered Gong Ao's true colors. To be honest, although he felt that the guy on the throne was particularly annoying, Yi Ding was still grateful to Qin Feng in his heart. If not for Qin Feng, he wouldn't have accidentally discovered a part of the mysteries of providence and deduced that Gong Ao had ill intentions towards him. It was also because of Qin Feng's repeated blows that he truly grew up. Yi Ding was extremely intelligent. Looking at Qin Feng's expression, he guessed that Qin Feng might have seen through his goal. Well, since this guy already knows where my goal is, then I have to offer some practical benefits. Otherwise, this treacherous guy won't let others take advantage of him for free. After pondering for a while, Yi Ding suddenly gritted his teeth and raised his head. "Junior brother Qin, actually, there's one thing I didn't say. This pure-blooded Kunpeng is extremely beneficial to me. If I can devour it, I can establish the foundation of a fiend god in one fell swoop. If senior brother Qin can help me, I, Yi Ding, swear that I will definitely repay this favor in the future." Yi Ding looked straight at Qin Feng with an extremely solemn gaze. Yi Ding had already offered the greatest sincerity he could offer. The hall fell completely silent. This matter concerned the attainment of the Tao and was no small matter. In the void, there were even traces of extremely mysterious power descending. Traces of supreme aura of the laws of heaven and earth appeared. It was as though Yi Ding's words had turned into a real invisible contract. He actually caused the laws of heaven and earth to descend? Is senior brother Yi Ding going all out? In the hall, some of the more knowledgeable experts glanced sideways. Qin Feng raised his brows as well. Yi Ding was practically selling his body. Once he helped Yi Ding attain the Tao, this person would basically become his slave in the future. The favor of attaining the Tao was greater than any other favor. As for going back on his word, that was impossible. Yi Ding's words came from his heart. At this moment, he had even triggered the laws of heaven and earth in the unseen world. Once he went back on his word, he would suffer a backlash from heaven and earth. A backlash from heaven and earth was something that even a master god like the limestone master god would have to deal with. If Yi Ding went back on his word, he would definitely suffer. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.